So the Planning Commission capital budget hearing of, what's today? I don't even know what, it's the 27th, right? Of January 27th will come to order. Roll call, please.
Sure. Ms. Shockley,
Here.
Ms. Langalis,
Here.
Ms. DeMeglio,
Here.
Mr. Baxendale,
Here.
and Ms.
Here.
Peniston.
You
Yeah,
forgot John
quorum.
You forgot John Lasko. Is he on?
He's not going to make it tonight.
Okay, so do we have five? We have five, right? We
Yep.
can get started. Okay. All right, so we'll get right to it. And I see first on the agenda is a familiar face who's back is of information technology. And Karen,
Yes, thank you. As some of you may know, I retired from the city in October, and I'm working with the city on a very limited basis during the transition period. Part of that transition is working with Joyce and Jeff and other members of IT to craft the capital budget request for the 2022 fiscal year. Format is pretty much the same. I'm not sure what documentation was provided to you from the finance office, but it should have been a capital budget form out of the in the usual format. So we're going to walk through each of those items briefly to give you just a concept or an idea of what those projects requests are.
okay, Karen, let me stop you 1 second.
Sure.
This, Brian, I want you to bring this to Steve, because from every department that we've been hearing from, the first thing they say, we don't know what you have. So I don't understand why the departments don't have what we have. We got an electronic run, and then we got notebooks delivered. So my request is, God willing, whoever's here next year, whatever it is, that the departments have the same thing that we receive, the same format. I mean, it's only, they submit stuff in, then they don't know what we have or what it looks like. So it always causes.
So Karen, the commission has everything that you went over with Henry during your discussions with Henry.
Okay. All right.
Okay, go ahead.
Terrific. Okay. So we're going to take on the report that you have then, if it's the same as what Henry has, there are 17 items there. We're going to go through the first 13. Items 14, 15, 16, and 17 are really placeholders for the next 5 years. So that's looking out 5 years, 2023, 24, 25, and 26. So our discussion tonight is going to be on items 1 through 13.
Okay.
Okay, so our entire request then for items 1 through 13 is $645,000 and $30, excuse me. And this is a combined technology request for the city IT department, the Norwalk Public Library, Public Works, Public Safety, Police, Fire, Emergency Management, Combined Dispatch, Norwalk Health Department, and citywide GIS. So this is a combined request for those who are new, and for those who are not new to the committee. You've heard this probably every year for the last 16 years. Our public safety total capital projects are going to total $153,000. The library capital projects come in at $48,000. We have some cybersecurity projects in here for $175,000, and all of the departments together is about $269,000. So we're going to jump. Sorry.
So Karen, these are your you have them listed as priority, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So right. And so the process that we go through is the IT department meets with the key stakeholders from all of these various departments on an annual basis, and we have our own planning workshop. And coming out of that planning workshop are these prioritized projects. So it's not just IT making the decision, it's a collaborative process that we have with each of those key departments. So our first priority in our project this year is cybersecurity projects. You may recall in October of 2019, the IT department engaged Bloom Shapiro to perform a cybersecurity assessment of the city's network and IT systems and review our security controls across multiple areas. The results of that assessment were very positive and very favorable, but there's always room for improvement, especially in light of what we've seen in the last 12 months relative to ransomware throughout the United States and throughout the world. So we have some opportunities for improvements. There's also some new technologies we'd like to take advantage of. We are going to collaborate with the city's Chief Information Security Officer when that person is hired, hopefully in the next 6 months, to undertake several of these initiatives to advance our security posture and stay ahead of the evolving threats that we see. We also have included in this, this request a follow-up assessment in 2021 so that we can gauge our effectiveness and improvements that we've made over the past 2 years. Any questions on that request?
So what exactly are you doing with 175,000?
So we have a number of initiatives identified, Fran. I don't want to go into too much detail in a public forum. We can certainly have an offline conversation. But what we want to do is we've identified a number of them relative to improving cloud application security, some encryption technologies, some disaster recovery, some multi-factor authentication. And so we have a laundry list of what we'd like to achieve. We want to sit down with the Chief Information Security Officer and prioritize those when that person is hired.
My question, Karen, I guess I don't want specifics. I never do. You're actually doing things versus this is not just studying or looking at or assessing. You're actually implementing something.
Yes, this is implementation. So a security assessment will run usually between $35,000 to $40,000, depending on the depth and breadth of an assessment. We had that done in 2019. We have a prioritized list of initiatives we wanted to take based on that assessment, and we're going to continue on with that exercise, and then we want to have another assessment done so that we can see how successful we've been in putting in place the measures that we've put into place.
Okay, very good. As you go forth, the commissioners will ask questions as you go through. So if you don't hear anybody, just keep going.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. The next project, and Joyce is going to help me out with this one, is relative to e-government projects. This is for $51,500, and this maps to the Plan of Conservation and Development, Section 13.3. We'd like to invest in the appearance and technology updates for the city website. There are some new technologies available to us, specifically around agenda creation and management systems, so we can streamline some of this with the city clerk's office. We can standardize some of the digital signage that we have, so we can tie that into the city website, and some content integration with the website so that Josh Morgan can have a more active role, excuse me, in some of this content on the city website. What we found during the pandemic, particularly in the months of April and May, we saw a 40% increase in the amount of traffic to the city website. It was really the place where Norwalk residents were going for information. So we didn't make any changes while we were during the height of the pandemic, if you will, or the onset of the pandemic. But now we'd like to take the opportunity to refresh the city website. Joyce, is there anything I'm leaving out relative to this project?
And no, the last time we have our website updates about 5 years ago.
Right, so it's time. It's time.
If there's a lot of functionality, the website provider, they are added to their system, then the city could benefit for, better citizen engagement. So It's about time we refresh our website for newer functionality and technology.
Right. And they also, thank you, Joyce. They also have some new citizen engagement tools that we'd like to look at as well. So this is what this project is about.
Is this outsourced work, or is it you're buying software, or is it both?
It's probably a little bit of both. My sense is we may make some investment in some new modules. We may make some investment in terms of the just refreshing the look of the site. Again, it's been 5 years. It really needs to have a facelift. So there may be some professional services associated with that as well.
Karen, have you met with other departments and stuff before you spend this money as to what their take is on what's needed on the website?
No? We will do a collaborative effort with them. We always like to look at what their pain points are, how during the pandemic, we've certainly changed the way that we do business as a municipality. We've learned a lot of really good stuff on how we can engage people more on a digital platform to, again, reduce the amount of foot traffic that comes into City Hall. So we will be having those discussions with those departments before we spend any money, that's for sure.
Okay, thank you.
All right, the next item is our annual desktop and laptop technology refresh program. We started this in 2014. This is refreshing desktops, laptops, and tablets in City Hall, the library staff, Public Works. We refresh desktops on a 3 to 5 year cycle, depending on the usage and the application and the conditions where the equipment is being used. If we have equipment that we refresh, if it still has a useful life, we'll hold on to it for parts or for setting up a training class or standing up a kiosk someplace. This includes disposal of the retired assets, which we do in accordance with the Department of Defense specification and in an environmentally friendly way. We have moved away from desktops as a result of the pandemic and have gone more to a laptop wherever possible scenario, so that whether it's a weather event or if it's another situation where we need to move our workforce to a work from home scenario, they have the technology to be able to do that.
Karen, are you strengthening, or is it in a good place for more people working at home? Having access, to work from home, to their computers and phone. I'm asking that question because I had to call City Hall for some stuff, right? So this was in Human Resources, and I get the message that says, I'm working from home. I have no access to my voicemails, whatever. So is that being looked at or worked at, or I guess what
every employee has access to their voicemail from home. So that I'm a little confused as to why they would have that message there. Before the employees left in March, on March 15th, we created a portal for the employees where they could go to from their home computers that have instructions on how to check your voicemail from home, check your email from home or on the road or from your cell phone. We made that available to all of our employees. So I'm a little surprised that you got that message.
Well, I'll tell you offline, okay? So
okay.
Separate discussion.
Separate discussion. Okay. Again, we've had a sort of a paradigm shift wherever possible. It's a laptop configuration so that at a moment's notice, if we need to move our workforce to home, we can do that. Item number 4 is a server refresh. Again, this is an ongoing refresh schedule of replacing at least one physical host server as it approaches its 5-year warranty period. Replacing servers on the schedule eliminates the risk of a production server failure. This cost has gone up a little bit since last year because we've seen a change in the architecture of these servers. And so the cost is a little bit higher. It's about $4,000 per unit higher going forward. The next item, number 5, is council chamber AV upgrades. You may recall back in 2013, we did a pretty radical update to the audiovisual technology in the Common Council chambers. The smart boards that are in that facility are now end of life. There are newer, more energy efficient smart boards that are available. We also want to simplify the recording process and fully integrate the live stream capability to the city's YouTube channel. And this is once the chamber can be reused post-pandemic. We're going to look at some grant funds to be able to do this to offset some of the cost. But this is the current plan right now, and that is to refresh the technology in the council chamber. That space is also used by the Board of Education, and well, prior to the pandemic, it was used by the Board of Education and several other committees because it did have the audiovisual and recording capability. Item number 6 is refreshing a City Hall network switch. A network switch connects the PCs and phones to the wide area networks. The switch that's in the City Hall data center is from, we installed that in 2008. It's served us really, really well, but now we find it's limited in terms of its data transfer rates. It still has some useful life to it, but it's not, it doesn't transmit as quickly or as fast as a modern technology does. So we'd like to replace this 12-year-old switch with one that's faster and more efficient, and will also utilize less electricity.
Okay.
Item number 7 is audiovisual upgrades to conference rooms. In 2017, we started a program to upgrade all the audiovisual capabilities of the conference and meeting spaces in City Hall. The intent is to upgrade to 21st century technology in conference spaces and community meeting spaces. So they can be used for internal and external meetings, as well as presentations and training and webinars. And during COVID-19, these AV systems were used extensively for remote meetings, for remote candidate interviews, staff meetings. The registrar of voters conducted all of their training using this AV technology, and a lot of other communications. During the pandemic, we also bought mobile units to sit on top of desktops to be able to move those around as the meetings moved around. Our approach is to outfit 2 spaces per year with new technology. And this year we'd like to do a mobile smart board setup, so it's on wheels, so it can be moved between conference rooms or meeting spaces or the lobby or wherever it's needed, and can be borrowed by the various departments. We'd also like to replace a vintage smart board at the Public Works garage, which is showing signs of age and failure. And I think our Public Works folks on this call are probably nodding their heads. Thank you. That needs to be replaced. The unit that we've planned for the Public Works garage also uses less electricity and has fewer energy consuming components to it. So we'd like to replace the unit that they have from 2000, and I'm not even sure when we put that in, but it's been a while. It's got to be close to 8 years on the unit that's down at the Public Works garage. So one for the garage and a portable unit that can be used by various departments.
So just 2 units, two things are going to be $10,000. That's it.
That is correct. Yes. Yes. These are the 75 to 85 inch. I think if you've been in the planning and zoning conference room at City Hall, it'll be the same setup that you see there. These will have microphones and cameras as well, so that they can do large scale video conferences.
And that's a portable one in the planning and zoning, correct?
Planning and zoning is fixed to the wall. Okay, the portable unit that was there is now on loan to Human Resources, so that they could continue to do interviews during the pandemic.
Okay, very good.
We traded the mobile unit with a fixed unit, and it's actually a newer unit and a larger screen that is now in planning and zoning. Okay.
Fran, could I go back and ask a quick question?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. On the, just out of curiosity, on number 3 with the desktop technology refresh, where you said you're replacing every 3 to 5 years, 2 questions. One, how many units more or less are you buying with 145,000? And if you're on a 3 to 5 schedule, is that an item we should be seeing every year? If you're, or how does that work?
Right. So that is an item you will see every year, and you have been seeing every year since 2004.
Okay.
Our plan this year is we are going to replace 223 units. And that's a mix of desktops, laptops, Wi-Fi's, and monitors.
Thanks. That helps. Thank you.
You're welcome. We do not have a capital request for GIS this year. However, I did want to call your attention to a request that will be coming for next year. And this is for the aerial photography for GIS. We did a flyover in 2019, and by we, I mean the Western Connecticut Council of Government, with a grant from the state. So there was no cost to the city for that 2019 flyover. And this was, again, funded by the state through a regional WestCog grant. We're not sure if the state is going to fund this in 2022, but so we have a projected cost of between $145,000 and $165,000. If the state is not going to fund this through WestCog, you will see this request coming through in the 2022-2023 budget cycle. There's tremendous value in having aerial photography. The landscape of Norwalk has changed a fair amount since April of 2019. And there's a lot of use by many departments, whether it's Public Works, particularly the assessor's office, for this aerial photography, and planning and zoning as well. We like to tie in the updated aerial photography with the next assessment, real estate assessment that the assessor's office will do. It really gives them a great comparison between the 2019 aerial photography and the 2023 aerial photography. So heads up, next year, if the state's not going to fund this, you will see a request, a GIS capital request for that.
How much is that, Karen?
So, you know, based on what the estimates were back in 2019, Fran, we're estimating between $145,000 and $165,000.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you. We're going to move to public safety. Item number 8, and we verified with the police department that they're requesting 10 patrol cars, and I think they had their meeting with you folks last night, the police
Correct.
department. So 10 is the number that we're operating under. This request is to refresh the mobile data terminals and the patrol cars. Again, this is a project we started with them, a refresh schedule every year since 2004. These units are subject to extreme temperatures. They're in use 24/7 by 365. These are used by the officers as their remote office for running plates, typing their accident reports, doing accident reconstruction, etc. So under constant use, we like to cycle these units out after 3 years. That's the most you can hope to get out of them based on the rough conditions in which they operate before they start to fail. So these units, because they are ruggedized is the term that's used, are more expensive. There's also a printer, a small printer that's associated with this so that the officers can print tickets in the field, and they can print other information in the field. So it's about $5,300 for the laptop and the printer, times 10 cars. The next item, number 9, is to refresh a server at the police department. There are 2 data centers that support the city, one at police and one at fire, and they back each of those locations back up each other. Again, this is our cycle of, as we approach a 5-year warranty period on a server, we like to get that replaced before it shows any signs of wear or production failure. That's particularly important for the police department as they're tremendously dependent on technology. The next item is number 10. This is for the fire department. It's a pre-planning, operations, prevention, asset management, and reporting system. This is a $75,000 project. Assistant Chief Bassett is here also to help us to speak about this project. And Assistant Chief Bassett, could you give us just a summary of what this is all about?
Yeah, it's put in there as the overall software that does our incident reporting that we're required on a monthly basis to the U.S. Fire Administration. It also is handling all our asset management now. We've been putting all our equipment in there, which is handling all our personal inspections inside the fire department. It also handles all our fire marshals records. Also, they maintain all their inspections as they go, occupancy to occupancy, doing their annual inspections. The newer software is cloud-based, and it'll be an annual cost to it, but the big cost is starting it up and migrating our current data into the newer system. It does give us web capabilities now for our inspectors also.
Right. So in collaboration with the fire department, we're going to work very closely with them. The software that they're using called Firehouse has been in place since I started about 16 years ago. And that software is being retired by the manufacturer because they were purchased by someone else, and they are not making any research and development investment in this Firehouse software. They're retiring it as of January 2022. So we have a year to make this happen. We could stay on the current version, but they're not going to provide any security patches or new features or bug fixes for it. So it's not really where we want to be. And as the assistant chief mentioned, this software really manages every aspect of fire operations and fire prevention. It also interfaces to the combined dispatch center. And we anticipate there's going to be an RFP that the fire department will develop, and we will work with them with that. And any new system hopefully will have a GIS component. It will be cloud-based. It needs to integrate with the dispatch system. So it's a pretty big project that we'll be undertaking with the fire department. But there are some major benefits to them, and the fire department recognizes that too, and they're willing to invest the time and effort to make it happen. All right. Any questions on public safety?
Well, I was going to wait till the end, Karen, but
Sure.
you know, when we had the tornado warning, I don't know, last year, whenever that was, remember? Sometimes. So I'm signed up with the Westport police. So I got texts on my phone. Then I called, after that was over, I called, I can't think of her name now. The head of our preparedness.
Oh, Michelle DeLuca.
Michelle, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Yep.
Michelle. So I called Michelle up and I said, Michelle, how come we don't have a system? I know we get the mayor's message, you know, we get the code red stuff, but this is real time that Westport uses to throw out these alerts, whatever it is. So from Westport, the police, right? So I get the alerts from, like I said, with the tornado warning, road closed, whatever it is. But we don't have that capability here in Norwalk. Is there any, I mean, I don't know what it takes or whatever it is, the system. Are there any initiatives, any discussions so that these things can be pushed out to any citizen who signs up, just like you sign up for the code red? But these are really, you know, time. Like I said, the tornado warning came out, text on my phone. Any of those discussions taking place, or I shouldn't be asking? I don't know.
I have not had those discussions with emergency management. Assistant Chief, I don't know if you've had those discussions.
There's stuff in place. I'll talk to Michelle on that. There's stuff that we have access to from the state, and I'll check with her though. I don't think needs to be a huge investment to actually get it done. So I'll follow up with you, Fran.
Yeah, my discussion with her was that it's different systems, you know, of what the Westport uses versus what we use. And my discussion was, are we ever looking into doing that kind of a, you know, immediate push out type of thing, right? Of warning or whatever's going on. The code red is great, but it's not as timely, if you will, right? Not that fast. So I don't know, any feedback, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty.
All right. I apologize. There is one more item, excuse me, for public safety, and this is item 11. And this is just replacing the lobby smart board at station 1. There's burn in. There's two things actually: replacing the smart board at station 2, excuse me, at fire headquarters, and also putting a larger screen in for training and productivity at station 1. So we would like to try that at station 1, but certainly replace the unit, which is original to when the new fire headquarters was built. It's time to replace that unit. That unit's on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it's starting to get a little flaky.
Okay.
Library. There's a couple of items here for the library. Item number 12 on our list is replacing the wireless access points at both libraries. So one of the things we've learned from pandemic the pandemic is driving demand for improved and higher speed wireless access in both libraries. We've expanded use of the library supplied library laptops in both buildings, and there's a lot of bring your own device at the libraries, prior to the pandemic at least. So we would like to replace those. The Carnegie building on Mott Avenue presents us with some challenges because the walls are very thick. So we have to buy more access points to get better coverage, particularly as you go between floors. So this is what this item is about. And then item number 13 is the public access computer refresh for the library. As we do for public safety and we do for all the city staff, we also refresh on a schedule the public access computers. The computers prior to the pandemic and the closure of the libraries, these computers are used by residents who don't have a computer at home or may not have access to Wi-Fi at home. And they logged quite a few hours. And after 4 years of constant use by the public, these computers have pretty much reached the end of their useful life from a standpoint of performance and reliability. This allows the library patrons, again, who don't have a computer at home, to be able to use a computer, whether it's applying for a job or looking for employment. And we don't like to see an out of service sign sitting on any computer in the library if we don't have to. So this is for PCs and tablets, which are popular in the children's area. The library has about 200 computers and workstations, and this is going to refresh a portion of those as we do every year. That concludes our request. Are there any
Karen,
other?
Go ahead, Brian.
Karen, may I ask a question, Karen?
Yes.
Clearly, this is very different from, or in order of magnitude, from what you spent last year and what you were forecasting for this year, both on operating expenses and obviously in capital. I can see basically what's driving this, I think, but would you just say what are the 2 or 3 key drivers which is driving this proportional increase?
I would say cybersecurity is a big driver of this increase, and again, unless you've had your head buried in the sand for the last year, every day there's something else in the news about whether it's a ransomware attack or it's a large-scale attack against the U.S. government, the U.S. government websites. Cybersecurity is really becoming the #1 focus of, and it should be the #1 focus of IT departments everywhere. So we really see that as a key driver for this increased request this year. The fire department project, a $75,000 project, is another key driver in this budget request. And then again, refreshing the appearance and the technology for the city website. It's been 5 years. It's time to address that. So I would say those are the key differences between this year and prior years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other commissioners have questions?
Yes,
So
Fran,
Karen,
ask,
go ahead.
about the fire department, please.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Could I just get another little bit of explanation about the fire marshal records that you keep? I know that as a real estate agent, frequently we look for information on buried oil tanks, and now I can go onto the city website through the fire department and then pay $5 for some further investigation. Can you explain, will this system make that information available to the public? I'm the public as a real estate agent.
Some information will forward off of that, but the inspection records aren't directly accessible to the public. That would be a request from the fire marshal's office. I don't want to speak on what they can release, what they can't release for violations, but this is the system. If they go out to either a multi-family house, a business, and do their annual or whatever year, it might be biannual or triannual that they go through, and they document if the occupancy passes inspection or if there's violations. So that gets recorded in the Firehouse software, and it just becomes the record of that. It's accessible. People do request that information for different reasons, but it's probably not something that would be readily accessible through the website. If that, I think that answers. I mean, there is some stuff that's going to be accessible for different reasons, but there's not a lot of stuff public would need to get every day from. So it'll be more on a request basis, which is not an issue.
So that type of information, then specifically oil tank removal, burial, remediation, it's not uploaded into the system, because we've been talking in the in the zoning office, excuse me, I'm trying to blank on what we can call our department, but that we're trying to break down these silos of information, and Steve's office is uploading all of many records of building permits and things like that. So I'm just wondering if that oil tank information, buried oil tank information, which isn't something you look for every day or even every year, but it's a very important piece of information if you're selling a property, that I have to then reach out to the nice lady in your department and somehow, you know, give her $5 to get that information. It would be great if that could be uploaded into the system, and that's all.
Yeah, I mean, and some of the interfaces, and probably Karen can speak more on that, but because of it, whatever company we go to is going to be interfaces with other software packages a little better. Some of that might be able to get pushed over a little easier. Right now, our Firehouse is, I think it's 25 years old, and it doesn't talk very nice with other softwares. So a lot of stuff is getting exported out and put on different platforms for the access. So yeah, hopefully that is one of the things that we can look at and see if some of that stuff could get pushed out a little easier.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
If anyone has any follow-up questions, you can get them to Brian and he'll get them out to me. We'll be happy to get you an answer.
Oh, don't worry, we will if we think about it. Hey, two things to the deputy chief. I don't need to know myself the question I asked about the alerts and stuff. If you have anything, please send it to Steve Kleppen and he'll share it with everybody.
Okay.
Okay. Karen, two things. It's good to see you again, but I have to laugh. This is there was quite a bit of traffic behind you, so that reminds me of the story of the true story that was in the papers and stuff, that somebody was on doing a Zoom call, and the mother came out of the shower and walked by naked. Okay,
Oh,
so
dear.
everybody saw that. So I was laughing as your foot traffic was going back and forth over there. Okay. So.
Yeah, so I'm sitting in my dining room and behind me is the kitchen, and it's, you know, I have teenagers, so they are constantly going back and forth to the refrigerator, which is probably what you saw in the background.
Yeah, we saw what's in your refrigerator as well.
Oh, no.
So you know.
Okay.
Anyway, thank you. Good to see you. Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Karen.
All right, so Steve is on. Is Mike Mushak on?
Yes.
Okay, because we didn't do when we did the roll call, either he missed you or
No, I came on a minute late, so,
okay.
yes, but I've been here the whole time.
Very good.
Same here.
Just checking picture, because I can't see everybody on the screen.
Well,
I can only
as
see
a disclosure, guys, I'm going to mute myself because my kids are screaming because GameStop has climbed in the stock. So the kids are jumping around the house all day long. They had the best investment ever. So they're yelling right now. They're getting pizza and ice cream for the next 2 days on them.
Okay, if you feel like you need to take 5 minutes and join, go ahead, in the pizza and stuff.
I'm going to have to.
Anyway, okay, so next we have the last department is Department of Public Works and Recreation and Parks. So who do we have on for that? Hello, Brian.
Nick is
So
there.
you have a bunch of people. You've got, so from you have Anthony Carr, who's the chief of DPW. You have Nick Roberts, who's the chief of Parks and Rec. You have Vanessa Valadares, who's your principal engineer. You have Drew Bernalmeyer and Paul Sotnick, who are both senior engineers at DPW. You have Neil Rennie, who is the building management director. And I think
you also have Chris Torrey, superintendent of operations, and Ralph Kobe, superintendent of WPCA. So, Ms. Chairwoman and Commission, what we'll do is, I think it's prudent, since each department head has worked so hard on preparing the budget and obviously executing prior budgets. I think that it's a good opportunity for them to go through each of the budgets. So Vanessa will handle engineering, Ralph will handle WPCA, Chris Torrey will handle operations, Nick Roberts will do recreation and parks, and Neil Rennie will speak to building management.
Okay, we have a list of who was going to be on. So I'm just curious, Christine Hall on?
No, she's not.
Okay.
Christine works for me.
Okay, no, because we asked Brian to put together, which is useful for us, who's next to each item, well, for each department, who's going to be here. Okay, so we're good. So Anthony, however you want to call on everybody to go first, or give opening, whatever you want. And listen, what's that big phone behind you? Is that really there, or is it just a thing?
It's the wallpaper. It's the Commissioner Gordon bat phone from the old Adam West Batman shows.
The Batman. Okay, well, I expect to see the Batman thing.
Right. So the joke is, whenever there's a problem, you always go to the red phone, and I feel, and I say this jokingly, that usually when there's a problem, your public works gets the first phone call, and in a lot of municipalities, a lot of things do go through public works. So that's kind of the joke behind it. But I'm also a Batman fan too. So.
Okay, good. It's all good. Okay.
It works, right?
We need the bat signal. Okay.
Yeah, that's next. I'll change that for next year. Hopefully we're not doing this too much next year. But so, Ms. Chairwoman, if it's all right, what I'd like to do, Neil, did you have a time constraint?
I do. If you
okay, if it's okay, if building management can present first. And again, I commend all the department heads for really taking a look and trying to plan ahead. It's not easy. They make it look very easy, but when there's a lot of projects on backlog, and you're trying to plan new projects, and of course you have to deal with a lot of different variables between elected officials and also the public, and trying to get a lot done as much as you can and as efficiently as possible, it definitely adds up. This certainly isn't easy, and again, it's a testament to my department heads, who are fantastic to work with, second to none. So on that note, Neil, I just paved the way for you. You could take it from here.
It was a good say. So the way we've been doing things is, we have a notebook, we have the summary in the front. So if you can just go through, if you saw how Karen did it, go through each, give us a brief, and if commissioners have a question, we'll stop you. Okay.
Sure. So you have our capital improvement summary page for operations and building maintenance.
Yes.
Okay. So the first item is for City Hall, right? We have 3 projects scheduled for the coming year. The first item is an air handler. We're on our last air handler, which is air conditioning, heating for the building. We've been replacing them over the last 3 years. We're down to our final one. That's for $100,000. So we're looking to do that. And our next line item is for the cupola upgrades. We have $200,000 in this year. And the third one for City Hall is $100,000 for the first floor restroom refurbishment. Now, did you want to me to continue down through my list, or did you have any questions about City Hall? Did you want to open questions after each building, or did you just want me to continue?
No, we're gonna just continue, and we'll stop you when any commissioner has a question. We'll just jump in. Okay.
No problem. Yeah. Our next item is for $50,000. It's for various buildings. It's for capital replacements and repairs. Typically, over the year, we can come into a small capital project. Not of much magnitude. We then cover that under that account. The next is police facilities. We'd like to redo what we're doing. We've already started the rooftop replacement for heating and cooling. Last year, we didn't get the money we asked for. We're asking for $460,000 this year to complete that work. The units are coming up on almost, I guess, 15 years. We run 24/7 over there, but we've been getting a lot of major breakdowns over the last few years.
The request here says 480.
460, does it? It says on my sheet 460. Let me just,
No, our
yeah,
summary,
I see. Oh yeah, so that's correct. So my next line item is $20,000 is to, for design services to upgrade the locker rooms for the police facility.
okay,
And next building is Public Works. We're looking for $65,000 to make some energy projects to our mechanical systems, as well as replace the hot water boiler for the wash bay. And for $147,000, we're looking to recoat the building roof over there to refresh that. Every 10 years, we try to do that instead of getting into a major repair, ripping off the whole roof. Next item is for Nathaniel Ely in the amount of $275,000. That's to upgrade the HVAC system over there. It's really antiquated. It's still using steam heat for the perimeter. So we're looking to bring that up to current day standards. Next line item is energy conservation for $25,000. That's projects that we come across over the years. Over the year, we typically, when we do an energy project, we typically get funding from the local utility companies up to 50%. That can be lighting, that can be new energy efficient motors, variable frequency drives, etc. And the last building is the branch library. The first item is $65,000 to upgrade to a new BM building management system. And the second item for $65,000 is to upgrade the lighting throughout the facility.
okay.
I have a
One
question.
quick question. The cupola is very attractive, but it seems to attract quite a lot of money and expenditure. What's the real issue up there?
So you have failure. The windows have failed up there. You have a lot of rot in the in some of the I guess the clapboard. The exterior is rotting. You also have a small roof up there that has leaks. And with the leaks, we have tarps right now catching the water inside the cupola. We have the bells still up there, so we're looking to kind of structurally make it sound again, keep the beauty of it. It's a big project because we have to put scaffolding up, right? The scaffolding alone is probably around $45,000 to $60,000. So we have a pretty good plan in place to redo it and not have to revisit it for maybe the next 20 years.
That's good.
In the past, there's been some work done, but it's more patchwork. We're looking to get in there, do it right, and get out.
Good, thank you.
I have two questions, Fran.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Thanks. Hello, everybody. The cupola is like this amazing piece of architecture, and it's historic. Are you aware of any state grants for historic preservation that you think we might be able to use for that? Facade improvement or whatever?
We've been working with Gill and Gill, and we've asked them about that. We haven't received it or haven't gotten any information on it, but by all means, we can look into that.
I think, yeah, because that's a landmark. And I know the building's not landmarked, but that cupola certainly is. And that whole wing of the city hall. The other thing was last night we found out something. It was new to me, probably maybe not to other commissioners, but we were talking about solar panels on some of the school buildings, and there's apparently, you work out a contract where you agree to pay for the power over a certain number of years, and then it's almost cost-free in terms of putting the panels on. And I may be misquoting that, but that's kind of how it was explained to us. Do you think there's any chance of using that DPW center with solar panels on the roof? Because that faces if I'm thinking of the right building, it faces south, but I might not be thinking of the same building.
We can look into that, where we've had the problem even at like City Hall. They looked to do that, and there was a loading issue with the roof, with putting the panels on the roof, right? It wasn't rated for that the live load and the dead load. It didn't work out. It's something we can certainly look into to make the buildings more energy efficient and to better what we do. So by all means, we could look into that.
And I thought of it because they just mentioned last night that anytime they redo a roof now on a school, they're thinking about that, because it's easier to do the solar panels when you're redoing the roof. You anticipate that, and you can put in, the supports or the braces or whatever. And it was an interesting thing to learn in the meeting last night.
Yeah, I think it's a no-brainer when we're looking to redo the whole roof. Unlike the DPW, we're literally putting a liquid membrane coat on it. So we would not be structurally, we would not be touching it, but if it can manage it, it's something to look into.
Right. All right. Hey, thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you. Any other questions?
Any other question from any commissioners?
I do, Fran.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm looking at the Nathan Ely improvements, and I'm not sure if it's a typo, but you have the 275 building HVAC in 2022, then you have it again in 2023 for 2022, and then you have replacing the windows. Would it make sense to do the windows first, since you're looking for energy efficiency, and then do the air conditioning? And is the total air conditioning 275 times 2?
So to your first answer, the windows, yes, you're correct. You want to do the windows first. We run into a little bit of a problem over there, and it's something we're still talking about as we speak today. We have children, we have a programming in there, and we'd have to find other places to put the children while we're doing the window upgrades, because there is lead, potential asbestos in the caulking and stuff like that. So it's a major undertaking. We have to find a different facilities to put them in. So yes, by all means, the first thing to do would be the building envelope, the windows, then followed by the AC and the heating. And your second question.
With the pandemic, has there been a shift of use?
Has there been a shift of use over there? No, I don't think so. I think it's been primarily children programs. So we find that in a few different places that we operate today. It's one thing we struggle with, right? Because obviously we'd like to do the windows, the envelope, and the roofs, and sometimes we're put in a tight situation there.
Okay, thank you.
What was the answer on the 275?
Yeah, I'm just going back to, so yes, that would be spread out over 2 years, the heating project over there. So we literally have to get rid of all the steam heat on the perimeter, and then we have to put rooftop units in that would be dual systems. They would be heating systems and cooling systems. They would be on natural gas.
But they have the old radiators in that building?
They do.
And you don't see any value or virtue in leaving the radiators and just doing air conditioning?
So it's probably not as efficient as it could be with if we maintain just off the rooftop, if we can maintain off the rooftop units as we think we can. It's from an energy standpoint, it's much cheaper and inexpensive.
Okay.
So is the amount the same of
Yes.
both years? Is that what it is?
Yes,
Okay.
it is. Yes.
Okay. Are there any other questions for this department? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Good evening.
Okay,
Thank you, Neil.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Anthony, however you want to go, okay? Call on your department and.
Absolutely. Thank you. Next, since it's pretty small in request, Mr. Torrey, can you please give a synopsis on the two projects that we have proposed for this year for the request, which are the truck scale replacement and the tipping floor refurbishment?
Okay, give me, hold on. Which, no, we're looking in our.
Which department?
Sorry,
What is-
operations,
Okay,
and it's projects number 1 and 2.
just give us a second to get there.
Sorry about that.
I think it's page 67 in the book, Fran, if that's what you're using.
Yep, okay, thank you, yep. Okay, go ahead.
The truck scale replacement was a redo from last year. We also requested it. The scale hasn't been replaced since DBW moved to this site almost 20 years ago. We did some work at the wastewater treatment plant. There was a lot of settling here at the garage, and the scale really needs to be replaced. Just for some insight, about 25,000 to 35,000 tons go over that scale every year in yard debris, especially after like storms like the August 4th storm that we had this year. So we're requesting to get that scale replaced if we can.
I think, I don't remember if we approved it or not, but it's been on here for a while, hasn't it?
Last year was second year. This will be the third.
So before I request it through Steve Kleppen, send us a picture. And you guys should think about that. You know, these things that, you know, adding a picture to your present, you know, to the book here and to your submittal, I should say. So if you don't mind, Anthony, send a picture over through
Sure.
Steve Kleppen for us, okay?
Absolutely, will do.
Yeah.
The next item on this list is the tipping floor at the transfer station. It's a concrete floor, and as you can imagine, over the years, the loader constantly pushing garbage into the hoppers has deteriorated the floor where the rebar is coming through, and it really needs to be replaced to avoid lawsuits in the future or tripping hazards or damaged equipment, stuff like that. Last year, we requested to have the parking lot paved, and that did happen. So thank you guys for that. Appreciate it. And now we're requesting that the tip floor be replaced because of the liability to the city.
Tell me again, tip floor is, tell me what that is again.
It's like when you pull into our transfer station, when you go into the big building, the floor, that's the tipping floor. So all of the garbage from the garbage trucks gets dumped on there, the residential garbage coming over, the railing comes over there, and a loader pushes it into one of 3 hoppers, and it gets compacted into a trailer and taken to Wheelabrator in Bridgeport.
So tipping is from the trucks tipping up, right? Is that what that is?
That's correct, Frank.
Okay, very good.
Fran, can I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Torrey.
Hi, Jack, how are you?
Is there downtime on that floor? Like, how would you get that much downtime to replace the floor? And what would that mean in terms of operations? And the other thing is, I know this sounds simplistic, but I've seen people refurbish concrete at a residential use, like really bad garages that are really deteriorated, or even the walkways around swimming pools that take chlorine and they tend to get eroded and crack. And they have these epoxies that they can just put in, and they're kind of miraculous because they just cover up a lot of sins. I realize this is like garbage trucks and heavy duty, but is there any kind of coating that we could do instead of replacing the concrete? Or are you thinking of that already? I'm just curious. I'm sure you've thought of things, but I'm just curious.
I'm sorry for interrupting. We did the patchwork. We've done it. The hard answer is no. We cannot do it at one time without closing the transfer station for 2 or 3 weeks. So we'd have to do it in stages, probably in quarters, right, to get it done. And even that, we might have to only let a few trucks in at a time because you can't just pass through.
So that's where we are. You got to remember, each truck that is going over there is probably 30 or 50,000 pounds. So the floor is a little different than the average homeowner's garage or concrete sidewalk in front of your house or anyone's house for that matter.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the commissioners on this one?
No, I just have a comment and a question. Normally we see some fleet replacement, Mr. Torrey. I didn't see any this year. Curious to know, did you push that out for next year, or
No.
How's the fleet going and the use of the fleet?
The fleet is page, oh, there's no page number on it. It should be page 70 of 204. And we did put in for 2 plow trucks and a compressor.
Okay,
We
is that
did
next year?
No,
do you
it's
have packets?
this year. Look on page, what is it, 70 there? Or
70. Okay. Are you going over that one as well, or?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, forget it then. Okay, I'll wait then. I'll wait.
So to the committee, we did put in for 2 heavy duty plow trucks this year, which came to $520,000, and then a compressor that we use for our masons that haven't been replaced in 15 years. The 2 trucks that we're replacing with the newer trucks are 1996 Ford L9000s. We're having a hard time getting parts for them. As trucks go down, we take as many parts off of them as we possibly could to get as much money. So pretty much when we get rid of our trucks, they're just scrap metal. They're not even able to be used as trucks anymore.
okay.
But to your point, Mr. Ferguson, it is downscaled because of COVID, and I didn't want to push the envelope this year. Thank you for picking up on that.
Yeah, thanks for being shrewd with that, because I've seen the weather has been favorable in some regards, even though we had a couple of snowstorms. But I was looking at the Ford vehicles. You have Public Works has their own mechanics as well as the fire and police, correct? Do they ever talk and help each other out, or is individual silos?
So Steve, DPW does all of the city's fleet maintenance except for fire. So the fire department has their own mechanic. I think there's 2 of them, and they service the fire apparatus, but all of the police vehicles, all of the DPW vehicles, all of the city hall pool cars, and even the wastewater treatment plant vehicles are serviced by our fleet department.
Is that because the fire is regulated differently based on certifications, or is that just what has been business as usual for over the past few decades?
You know, Steve, I think that it's evolved. The old fire mechanic was a fireman, so I think that the fire department felt comfortable with people that have training on fire apparatus working on their vehicles. They're a little bit more difficult to work on than typical cars and public works trucks, like the hydraulics,
okay, because you guys use cherry pickers. You guys have various types of trucks with different mechanics and hydraulics. So I'm assuming, with the exception of the fire, is similar, just holding water, or are there anything that's more complicated or specialized that you all can't combine?
I couldn't answer that. I can get that answer for you, Steve, if you'd like me to.
I would really like to have that answer.
They're separated.
What's the question though, Steve? The question is.
Well, because you know, each year we have different mechanical needs for these different vehicles. And since Public Works handles the majority of Norwalk's fleet, just want to know why fire is separate. So I thought it might be a particular regulation that only a fire certified person could do to handle a vehicle. But we're talking about these trucks cost $800,000 in some cases. That's all.
No, I remember, I think we asked this question last year. I don't remember the answer to the fire chief.
We never got the answer last year.
To the fire department. So if we get an answer, get it through Steve Kleppen, and then everybody gets to the whole planning commission, okay?
I think that the fire department is definitely better suited to answer that question than us, because to your point, Steve, we do have pumper trucks, Vecchio trucks that have pumps on them that are $800,000 trucks, and we work on them. So from a 10,000 foot view, it's a more of an administrative decision, I think, at this point, of why we're not combined fleet wise for the mechanics.
Okay. Last question for you, Mr. Torrey. We talked about hybrid vehicles. Is that something that you all are considering?
We actually bought, and Anthony was spearheaded that charge. We did purchase 10 hybrid vehicles, 2 of them being actually 10 hybrid vehicles and 2 hybrid electric vehicles that are mostly electric over the past year, that we are working on getting out to the various departments that need them at City Hall. We're still trying to get our fleet pool car software going. COVID kind of threw a monkey wrench into that, but we are progressing forward with energy efficient vehicles where applicable. There has been some talk about how come we don't use natural gas vehicles in DPW. They just don't produce the power, Steve, that we need to plow a foot of snow. They don't make a natural gas or electric vehicle that generates that much torque and power.
I see. Thank you.
Hey, Brian, can you ask the question of the fire chief or the fire department? The discussion we just had about mechanics and all that, and then, ask the question, then I'll come back through everybody.
Okay.
Okay? All right.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, where do you want to go next?
Ms. Chairwoman, may we proceed with the Water Pollution Control Authority, which is Mr. Ralph Kolb.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone.
Page
Hello.
108.
Okay.
Yes. Good evening. I'm Ralph Kolb with the Norwalk WPCA. As you guys are aware, it's an enterprise fund for the city of Norwalk. We have our own budgets, operating account. Still got to go through the city process though for the capital process. So item 1, collection system rehabilitation for 2022. It's a $1 million request, and this money would be going into capital improvement project on collections. We have approximately 205 miles of sanitary sewer, and this money would go into a project that we'd be going out to bid shortly, sometime this year, basically for lining and or excavation repairs.
So you have $1 million for each year going through here, right? So
correct. It's the $1 million each year is a placeholder. We have a consultant that we're entering in a contract for capital monies that was approved last year, and they're going to be doing a complete flow monitoring study in the spring of 2021, which basically it's going to install approximately 40 flow meters throughout the city's collection system and monitor where we have potential capacity issues or infiltration. And based on that study, they're going to update the city's hydraulic model of the collection system. And we're going to use that work along with CCTV and additional information that Suez, our contract operator, will provide to us. And we're going to develop long-term capital improvement plans to rehabilitate the sanitary sewer. So that way, bottom line is we want to make sure that the sewage reaches the treatment plant.
yeah, I was going to ask you to say it in English versus the what you just had over there. So, in plain words, just give me the gist.
Yes, so the consultant's already on board, but this money is going to go to actual capital improvements of the sanitary sewer. So that makes sure that we rehab the pipes that convey the flow from houses down to the treatment plant.
Okay, so we're going to be seeing a lot more digging up of streets. Is that what that means?
Some digging, but what we're trying to do is what we call CIPP lining, and that's it. Basically, we put a sock in the sewer that has a epoxy resin inside the sock, and it's cured with hot steam or hot water. And that way we don't have to dig up the roads. It's much more cost effective. Right now we have Green Mountain Pipeline Services that has been in town since 2019. They're going to be finishing up later this year, but it's about a $6 million contract. And most of their work is about 45,000 feet of gravity mains that are being lined. And we're about 87% complete. So one of the projects right now we may add is on Smith Street from Wall to Moody's Lane. We're looking at lining that pipe. And again, instead of digging up the road, we set up a bypass to pump sewage around the work, and they cure this liner inside the pipe, and it's equivalent to installing a new pipe in the ground. It's got a useful life of 50 years or more, and it's also a structural liner. So the existing pipe, the shell that's in the ground, that could fail, but the new liner is structurally sound and will be intact for many, many years.
Okay, thank you. Any other commissioners have questions?
Yes, I do.
Oh, go ahead, Tammy.
Go ahead.
Hi, Ralph. I'm curious, how many miles do you get on your $1 million? And I think I saw your company in action over on Yarmouth recently. It's a company out of Vermont.
That's correct.
Okay. It really produced a horrible smell, not a sewage smell, but a really different kind of chemical smell. And, I'm all for you guys doing this. I think restoring rather than digging up is great, because inevitably, we pave a road and then 2 years later it gets dug up, which I find frustrating. So that's, I think that's a really positive thing, and to keep the sewage, getting to the sewage plant, especially with all of our waterfront, is even more important. So sorry, how many miles do you get for $1 million?
So it depends on the diameter of the pipe. Obviously, the larger diameter, the more the cost is higher per foot. The smaller pipes, 8, 10, 12 inch, we're right now Green Mountain, the pricing with Green Mountain is anywhere from $22 to about $60 per foot. If we get into a larger diameter pipe, it could be about $150. It can be even more. The 36 inch on Smith Street, right now we have pricing about $275 per foot. But any kind of excavation that we do, you're looking, because of the time to excavate, to backfill, then the cost to refurbish or the asphalt, the road surface, that's expensive. So we can be anywhere from $300 to $1,000 per foot for open excavation.
Wow. And any opportunity to use a Connecticut firm instead of a Vermont-based firm, or the labor, costs just so much better in Vermont than they are in Connecticut?
The companies have offices at various locations in the Northeast. Same with the competition. It's a qualified based bid process. I mean, a low bid based process. They were the most qualified, lowest bid when we put the project out to bid. So to answer your questions, we would use any company that's qualified and gives us the best price.
Okay, thank you.
And
you're welcome.
I think they bring some maple syrup with them too. I think that helps. I'm curious that we used to have items, I'm pretty sure, listed for separating sanitary and stormwater. We're always doing that, or ongoing. Are we done with that, or do you have a percentage of how much more we need to do? And is that kind of an ongoing thing that is included in these numbers, or do we not have to do that anymore? It's the stormwater, as you know, but I'll just say that for everybody else, that goes in and overflows the water treatment plant because it's rainwater, but it's combined because that's the way they used to do it 100 years ago. And I think we're still fixing that, aren't we?
It's a long-term project. It's in the past, DPW took the lead in sanitary sewer separation projects. I'm going to continue to work with Anthony Carr and Vanessa And as we're making improvements to the sanitary sewer, if there is possibilities to disconnect city catch basins, we will do that. This past year, 3 catch basins were disconnected because of projects.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ralph, just to circle back on one thing though, to answer Tammy's question before, if you assume $30 a linear foot and you take $1 million and 5,200 feet in a mile, on the lower end with smaller diameter pipes, 8 inches, 10 inches, 12 inches, you could probably get 3 to 5 miles worth of sanitary sewer lined, which again, like Ralph said, is like an inverted sock that has glue in it. And as the sock gets pushed through the pipe, it goes from inside out and it's sticky, right? So it sticks to the walls of the pipe. And then like Ralph said, they insert hot water or steam to cure up or push up the sock against the existing host pipe, like Ralph was saying. And on a higher end, if there are the larger diameter pipes or some other issues that you might encounter that makes the lining more difficult, maybe you're getting 1 mile to 2 miles, depending on the project. But we try to do large and small diameter pipes, so it's a little bit of both. Is that about right, Ralph?
That is correct.
No, thanks, Anthony.
Sure.
Expensive.
Just to give you,
how you slice it. Very costly.
How many miles do we have to take care of over the next couple of years?
200.
Well, there's 205 miles throughout the collection system, and we're going to be working with our consultant to develop projects.
Any other questions? So Ralph, where are you sitting over there? Are you in the guts of the building over there, or where are you?
This is called the main lift pump room. So when the wastewater comes down to the treatment plant, it comes in very deep in the ground. So we have to lift it up for it to flow through the various treatment plant processes by gravity. So we're able to pump 95 million gallons per day in an extreme wet weather event.
Impressive.
You really
So
did your job.
the pumps went in 2017. These were some of the treatment plant capital monies that we put in. It's about $5 million worth of pumps behind me.
I think those were the pumps that we had to replace. Weren't they faulty?
The original in 2012, the Flowserve pumps failed, and the WPCA decided to replace the pumps with flight pumps. And the project was complete in 2017.
Very good. Okay, what's next?
The item 2, pump station upgrades and replacement. And again, we're asking for another $1 million, and this is going to go into construction projects. We're in design of 2 projects. The first consists of 4 pump stations, which will be going out to bid in February. And those pump stations consist of 5 Mile, Old Trolley Way, Woodward Avenue, and Karen Drive. And then we have a second pump station project that's a little bit more complex, which is our Keeler Brook pump station relocation and force main. It's going to be a new force main. So we already have some existing capital monies for pump stations, but with COVID, construction prices have either been in line or actually high, depending on the various contractors. So this additional $1 million should help with the overall 2 projects.
Okay.
And just a little history, we have the WPCA City of Norwalk owns 22 wastewater pump stations, and these are the top 5 that as far as potential risk for the city that we're rehabbing. So in 2019, our consultant, Wright Pierce, did a asset assessment and developed a 15-year long-term control plan. So based on, we evaluated each of the pump stations, and these were the top 5 through that plan. So we're proceeding with construction and rehab.
Okay. Any questions from anybody?
Yes.
Go ahead.
What do you see in terms of all these new apartment buildings coming online? That's going to be a lot of additional wastewater going through the treatment plant. How much more capacity do we have? I mean, when I read the mayor's letter of all of the buildings that with hundreds of units. How is the WPCA handling all of that?
Good question. Couple weeks ago, we had a public hearing with the Connecticut DEP, Save the Sound, and was open to the public. And we did have a visual chart of flow going through the treatment plant. And currently we're about 12 million gallons per day. The treatment plant is designed to handle 18 million gallons per day. So we do have capacity. Also, in the last 5 years, the trend is going down. So even though we've had more development coming in, fixtures are more efficient. Some of the redevelopment sites, it's old buildings that are being updated. So water use is going down. So it's actually helping with flows coming to the treatment plant. Plus the money that we're putting in the collection system, we're reducing infiltration and inflow, which is helping reduce the flow. To continue to evaluate long-term needs, we're in the process right now of developing a scope with Arcadis, who's going to evaluate the wastewater treatment plant. It's called a facility plan update. And basically we're going to work with planning and zoning, and we're going to look out over the next 20 years to look at current flow and future flows going to the treatment plant so we can plan ahead.
Ralph, I was waiting for your answer because Mr. Chimento, he used the same numbers when that question was asked, I don't know how many years ago, but it was we were at 12 and we could go to 18. So very good.
I just want to add something real quick to that. I have a 1926 toilet that still works, and it is a 5-gallon flush. I mean, you could literally flush a pot roast down that toilet, but I put bricks in it to reduce it, but it has changed a lot. The high efficiency fixtures have sort of changed everything in terms of water usage and wastewater. But I feel guilty using that toilet because I'm still probably using 3 gallons of water, but it's a nice feeling to, anyway, I'll just stop.
Very good.
Well, Sherrell's point too, I know you would think with intuitively that with the development that increases the amount of volume to the wastewater treatment plant. But like Ralph correctly stated, 2015, I think our average daily flow was around 13 million gallons, right, Ralph?
Or a little bit above, yes.
Right, a little bit above 13. Let's just say a little higher than 13. And it's actually been trending down over the last 5 years to about approximately 12. So that's good. That's good all around the board. It's definitely attributed to the management of the plant, the collection system. And right, the only way that reduction is not luck, and like Mike was saying too, the energy, the efficient fixtures nowadays too help really reduce a lot of the, because a water leak, the same thing happened to me recently where I had a running toilet and my water bill went up 5 times. And I knew that was going to happen, but it's true. A high flush toilet or a leaking toilet could actually cause a lot of damage on the financial part and also contribute to more flow. So we've gone down over 1 million gallons a day over the last 5 years. So I think that's important to note. So we're not worried about the capacity. And we also have the consultants doing analysis. Arcadis is doing an analysis on the wastewater treatment plant. And then we're also having Brown and Caldwell do an analysis on the collection system, i.e. the pipes and the manholes in the street, to also look at the system as it exists today and then do future build out scenarios based on different zoning areas and districts and requirements in the future. So if a developer comes in and let's say they put a 1,000-unit apartment building, we would look in that area, we would look at that segment of pipe or segments of pipe, give the plan to the consultant who would have the model of our hydraulic system, the sanitary sewer, and they say, okay, look, that pipe to begin with, you're already at 90% capacity, you only have 10% to play with. That developer needs to upgrade the pipe from, I'm making this up, a 12-inch to an 18-inch pipe. And at least we'd have the technical basis to support the developer who's going to say, wait, what? You want us to upgrade? That's ridiculous. That's going to be extra money. But at least we'll have the justification for that. So we're definitely planning for the future now.
Okay, I don't want to derail us, but since you brought up the developers,
yes.
Have you looked at, let me, if I can ask you a sidebar question there. Have you looked at the Glover Avenue, 1,300 units that being proposed up there and all that? That's not to get into a big discussion, just since you brought developers up. Have you done anything with that?
Yes. Anthony, if
Ralph?
I can give you a little history.
Absolutely.
So when
Please.
Glover Avenue started with buildings A, B, and C, they came to the WPCA and DPW, and we all worked together. They actually did increase the sanitary sewer pipe diameter sizes on Glover Avenue to accommodate their planned flow at that time. I know that there's some more discussion. They haven't formally submitted recently what the future or what they're proposing in the future, but we're going to take the same approach. There's guidelines that the city has for sizing of pipes capacity, making sure that there's at least 25% capacity remaining in existing infrastructure. And that's how we're going to continue our negotiations.
Okay, well, we haven't done anything with it from last year. I would say, I don't know, 4 or 5 months, but the last review, so you might want to put that on your list. The last review was 1,300 units going forward. Okay, so, okay,
One last question. Sorry, Fran.
go ahead.
Sorry, and I also want to say the same thing Fran did. I don't want to make a big discussion out of it, but we do take wastewater from other towns, I believe, some from Wilton, maybe Westport or Darien, I think. Do we negotiate those rates publicly, or is that done by contract? Is that done between governments? I mean, how does that work?
Real quick, so the town of Wilton, we take whatever flow that Wilton has sewered, and there's an interlocal agreement, and the rates, everything is set, and it's linked to our budget, our operating accounts. So then the individual users in Westport, there's 10 parcels. That's all based on the same rates that the Norwalk taxpayers pay.
So it's only 10 users in Westport. It's not, I thought it was whole parts of the town were using our waste treatment plant.
10 parcels, one parcel has, I think, 55 units on it. But just the Westport, it goes into on Westport Avenue, where it goes into Westport.
So the answer is we can't just start charging them more if we felt like it. It's all set by the state.
No, it's actually set by the WPCA Board of Directors, and we do not have a separate interlocal agreement with Westport. They do not want to enter into an interlocal agreement. If we did that, we could have a unique rate with the town. But for now, those 10 users are pretty much grandfathered. They're treated the same way as Norwalk customers.
And Wilton is also using us, or is it just Westport?
The town of Wilton, we have an interlocal agreement with, and that agreement was a 20-year agreement. And there's a whole section on how the rates are calculated long-term for them. And it's linked and tied to the operating budget for the WPCA.
So they're basically paying their way, they're paying fair price for the usage of our facilities.
Correct. We calculate
the city owns our treatment plant. It's not a regional thing. It's the city of Norwalk, right?
That's correct. With Wilton, each year we have to look at their flow as a percentage of our flow, and the finance department takes that information based on the actual operating accounts and calculates the annual sewer fee for Wilton.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, we're gonna move on, but I myself don't understand why Westport pays the same, and I don't, not to take time here or whatever it is, but why would we charge Westport residents the same rate as Norwalk residents? I mean, that doesn't make any sense, right? So, well, whoever's making that decision, I don't know, maybe I'll have to attend the WPCA meeting and ask that question. I don't understand, right? Or somebody asked that question, why? And I don't know how many units there are, but anyway, I'll leave that hanging question, okay, to Anthony for you to bring up with somebody, okay? All right.
Do any Norwalk residents use anybody else's sewage treatment plant? Go in the other direction.
There may be a couple homes because of where the homes are in comparison of the collection system for like the town of Darien and the town of Westport. So yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, where are we going next?
Right, engineering. Vanessa, please. And
Good
that is
evening,
page
everyone.
24.
Okay, hold on. What page?
24?
Page 24.
Okay, hold on. Okay, make sure everybody's there. Page 24, okay.
Are you guys ready?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. So our first request is bridge repairs. We are asking for 500,000 this year. And if you guys remember, a few years ago, we came in front of you and mentioned that DOT now was not anymore inspecting any bridge that was below 20-foot span. So what we have been doing was we started, we hired a consultant that they came, we engaged them last year. They look at all the bridges that we had, and then we have a lot of repairs to do on those. So what we did a priority list, and the way that we are setting up our budget is that one year we're gonna do the maintenance, the other year we're gonna request money to design the maintenance that we'll need it on the other ones. And eventually in 2-3 years, we'll have to go back and re-inspect those bridges. So for this year is a construction year, so that's why we're requesting the $500,000. In the back of the book, you'll see there is a list that we put together with all the bridges, and also not with the priority, but the bridge number and what we are planning to do, what will be the recommendations for each capital year that we're planning to do. It's in the back there.
So that 500,000, which bridges are you doing then, if it's not a priority list?
No, it is the, Paul has a list, so I can tell you that is Bonnybrook will be one that we're gonna do this year, right, Paul? And then,
Yeah.
and then I just wanna also, when we say bridges, most of these are really culverts. They are really small, it's like below 20 feet. So, and that's why the $500,000 can give us to do a like few under. So Paul, you have the list that we're planning to do this year. We have about 3, right? That will be a priority that we may be able to do.
We've started to design 3, and then what was broken up into work that had to be done in the first 1 or 2 years, and then the ones that could go 3 to 5 years. Well, we're working on doing the construction, and in the backup material, it was listed in the order of priority. Bonnybrook Road was the first one, Field Street, Glover, Rowayton, and so forth down the list. And that's why we're doing them in the order of priority, and worst to best, basically worst first. And that's why we're looking for the money. But we've done the design last year. Money for the design was allotted, and now this year we're looking for the money to do the construction work on that first group. And as Vanessa said, then next year would be the design of the 2 to 5 years, and then construction would be the 4th year. The 5th year would be inspection of all of them again and start the cycle over.
But we don't have this list the list on page.
I think we're missing a page on the official book, unfortunately. But we submitted the priority list. Also on my book, I don't have it, Fran.
Okay, so if you can send that over to Steve, Brian,
sure.
And so they can get it to us.
We included, but I think it didn't make it through on the attachments.
Okay, thank you.
Isn't that page 27 or am I?
Well, the 27 already, Mike, you see is for the following year. There it should be page 26. If you were missing the page 26.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, the 27 is all the way up to fiscal
yeah,
year 25.
Yeah, it's the way that we're gonna go. So we just need to send you page 26.
We'll send you the entire backup packet in order so that it makes sense.
Well, don't give us a big reading homework. Just give us for the money that you're requesting for. What are you using it for? That's the piece that's missing right now, right?
Yes, we have that. We're gonna get it to you.
I'll give it to you.
So moving on, next item is structural inspection repairs. We are only asked for $35,000 every year. This is just to cover in case we need to hire a structural engineer. We don't have a structural engineer in our staff, so that's what this money is for. West Cedar Street Bridge, this is a second portion of our request, just follow up last year. We're replacing West Cedar Bridge under the federal bridge program, where the state will pay for 80% of the participating items. The request is 1.8 because now we're showing the total, including the state portion of it, but our share is only 20% of the cost. But that's why it shows it as 1.8 for next year and then 100,000 the following year, just in case we need to finalize with some extra no participating items. But again,
so Vanessa, hold on. So
Sure.
you got 1.8 here. So when we sit down and look at line by item, that's not the number that it's the cost, right? It's 40% of, okay, so
yes,
how would
if
it,
you go to the backup on page 29, Fran,
yeah,
you see that we have the line for the construction is 1.8, but then there is the revenue under the federal local bridge program that will be 1.440. So actually what we really need is 360. Did you follow me? It's on the first column in the last.
I'm following you. I'm saying it's not, and I don't know how another way of doing it. You know, I said, when we sit down, don't forget, we're looking at a lot of items and a lot of different things, right? So the thing to understand where it says in the book, it says net appropriations. That means you're looking for 360,000, not 1.8.
Correct, but let me give you some background to that. Our CFO have asked us to really show the whole money because he needs to have that money available first before we receive the reimbursement. So let's say if the state gets delayed on paying us, usually we pay the contractor first, and then we have to submit for an application. Sometimes there's a delay of 30 to 90 days until we get the money. So he would like to see really the money that is needed for us to award that project in the request. So that's why a few years ago, before Henry was with us, you would only gonna see our portion of the request. Now we had, since last year, we changed, and now we have to show the total request of the cost and then show whatever would be the revenue that will come from it.
Okay, so question for Brian. When we're doing the markup, what number are we gonna see as a requested number?
For the projects themselves?
Well, for
Or
the,
for
take this project over here, right? Which the project shows 1.8 million. So when we're marking up line by line, you know, we always have your spreadsheet or we used to have things on the wall, which we're not going to right now.
Yeah.
Anyway, I can't see you here. There's no picture of you anyway, unless you're.
Yeah, I got a baby in my lap, so.
Oh, you don't okay, you don't want to see the baby. Okay, so that's okay. So the question is, when we're deliberating here, and we're going to be seeing a lot of numbers, right? A lot of line items. When we come to this item right here,
Yeah.
what are we going to see as the request?
1.8.
I think it's going to show up as the 1.8.
Correct. My suggestion, friend, maybe you can highlight. So we only have this year few that will go under that category. And I believe we are the only ones that receive some kind of reimbursement. And this year in particularly, I can highlight to you when we're gonna get it. So we'll be, I believe, just 2 projects that will follow under that.
But in the past, I do believe if there's any reimbursements, we do have a separate column that shows how much we're getting reimbursed by whomever. So I'll make sure that's on the spreadsheet, Fran.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just worrying about that. You know, we're going to look at the number. We're not going to remember everything. We have to look at our notes and whatever here. And I'm afraid that we're going to look at the number saying the request is 1.8. We're not going to be that generous, as you know, so it can't be 1.8. So I'm just worried about making sure that we're looking at the right numbers when we do our deliberations. Okay, Brian, that's what I'm coming from.
Yeah, from what I remember, Angela includes that, so I'll make sure that it's on there.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
And could I ask for clarification? Does it work the same way for the building construction for schools, that we see the full number and we don't see the reimbursement from the state?
The reimbursements should be on there too. Those are like a lot of the Board of Ed ones, right?
So we're seeing the full amount, but we may not be paying that full amount. We may be getting reimbursement for some of the construction and also, correct? I just want to make sure it's consistent. Okay, thank you.
And I have a
Brian,
question.
maybe you could put an asterisk like on the cover page under the project, West Cedar Street Bridge, put an asterisk, and then underneath the 1,000,008, put the 380 in parentheses. So it just kind of jogs your memory as you're going through it.
Tammy, unfortunately, we cannot do that because it's a fixed format. We have like electronic format. We just have to get in the numbers in. So even for us to be able to get to that revenue and show that, we had to play around, and we have to go back to IT and ask them to change a little bit the spreadsheet in a way that when it's printed, you guys can see. But I totally agree with you that it's much easier to know that, you know, on the 1.8, it's good to see that there will be reimbursement applied to it, and you cannot see right away at the front. Unfortunately, it's only showing in the back. Unless they change the format of the whole spreadsheet for next year, we're only going to be able to show you the way it is. We cannot even add anything to, even now, even the name of the projects are already in by the number.
Yeah, I'm not looking you to change anything because, you know, we have public hearing next week, and then we have markup the following week, right? January is over. We're into February, so there's no way. But in your discussions for next year, whatever. But right now, I'm looking to Brian to guide us in with whatever he's going to have on his spreadsheet to help us negotiate with these numbers. Okay.
Yeah. You'll see the reimbursements.
Okay.
Fran?
Yep.
This is a really good conversation. And with all the mental power here tonight, so I want to ask this question because, you know, we have discretion in the budget on a lot of items, or that, you know, we maybe sometimes pretend we do, but we're playing with numbers. On a bridge, it's a public safety infrastructure element. Do we have the right to just decide, well, let's just give them 1.5 million on something like that? I mean, am I really off base here, or do I really not see the benefit or the procedural or the process here that we're supposed to go through? Because if they're telling us they need to replace a bridge for 1.8 million, I don't think we really have much leeway to say, well, we're only going to give you 1.5. I mean, why would we want to do a partial bridge?
Also, I want to tell you that this is the second year for the request. We already requested some money last year to help with the flow of the budget. So this is the remaining, so we can meet our needs to really go out to bid this year. We are under design already, and that's the estimate that we have is about a $3.6 to $3.7 million bridge.
Thank you. So, Fran, do we have to make the distinction between projects that are, you know, in the public safety sphere versus other projects that are more discretionary?
We'll have that discussion, right?
Well, that's a good answer. Thank you. Well,
Okay.
everybody sees my point, I think. I mean, I don't feel comfortable telling somebody, here's some money, just make the bridge hold up the trucks.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, going on. I just want to tell you that our items B1, B2, B3, and B4, they are actually under the same umbrella. So for us, it's very important that we fund all of them at the same time. We broke up a few years ago, but I just want to, I'll go by one by one, but they all come together and you're going to understand how. So the first one is our B1 is the paving managed program. So it's $6 million. We always request $6 million. The more money you guys give us, the more we can pave. Just to give you an idea, last year we got the money and we were able to do 30% more roads this past year. It was really a record of all the roads that we were able to do. We have a very efficient system going on. I can guarantee that if you guys fund it, we're gonna spend that money and make our roads better. With that, also, we take care of the sidewalks. I know sidewalks is a very hot topic here in town, and I just want to clarify that we don't do new sidewalks under that. It's under TMP now, new sidewalks is done. These sidewalks that we request, the money that we are requesting $2 million is just to be able to do the sidewalks that are in poor condition along the routes of those streets that we're gonna pave. So the sidewalks that we're gonna improve are the sidewalks that are located on the same streets that we're gonna pave. Sometimes we need to change the curb, we need to change elevation, and that will affect the whole sidewalk. So if you guys drive around the First Street, Cove area, you see that we did a major sidewalk project there. We are just missing one road that is Second Street now. And that project was a perfect example of how all that goes together. So we had that in our plan to pave, and then we had to do the sidewalk so we could pave. So we're go ahead.
No, go ahead, then I'll ask the question.
So we're requesting 2 million. To be honest, 2 million is very little to all the amount of sidewalk that we still would like to do. But we are trying, you know, every year we'll come back. We know that a lot of people want sidewalk. We can do the sidewalks. Again, we're prioritizing where we're gonna do the paving, but we need the money to be able to also redo the sidewalks. Footpath replacement.
Hold on, I have a sidewalk question. So this is a true story. It happened here at the house. Eversource, they came in, they said they had to replace the gas meter from the cellar to the outside, right? This is on Strawberry Hill, where I live. They said a 4-hour job. We ended up from 7:30 in the morning to 10:30 at night. They dug up the hole from the street to the sidewalk now, which was a cement. And I'm asking this question on reimbursement and how the city, so now the sidewalk, there was cement before in front of the house here. Now it's, it was dug up from the street, terrible thing. If Eversource comes to your door and says, we're gonna replace your gas meter to put it outside, get it detailed of what they're gonna do. I won't even tell you about the yard and everything else that happened with. So now we have, so the sidewalk now, and they've been doing that on Strawberry Hill. They cut the path, so now that sidewalk is not the way it was. And their answer was, oh, DPW will come back and do it in the spring. So one is, does the city charge back to Eversource? And does that get on your, I don't know how that translates, getting on the list of sidewalk stuff? And is this part of?
I think I can answer that.
Go ahead.
But I think I can answer that. So I'll follow up on that just to make absolutely sure. I know that Eversource, we do sometimes allow to do their own permanent restoration. So I have to make sure that our inspectors knew to measure up whatever temporary repairs they may have made in order to bill out for the permanent restoration. But it is our standard practice with all utilities and private development that we bill out the cost to do a permanent restoration anytime that they conduct work and do temporary repairs within the right of way. And we do that with a markup on what our annual contract cost is to help cover our administrative cost and our construction cost to repair those things. So what we should be doing is, if the work happened in 2020, we'll get that entire scope from 2020 and put it into our 2021 contract. So we'll put that out to bid, and then during the course of 2021, we would do everything that happened in 2020. There might be some patches that maybe didn't get done from 2019 that we're prioritizing at the beginning of spring of this year. Do you remember if it was 2020 or 2019, Fran?
No, it was 2020. It was about 3 months ago.
Okay.
So,
Okay, so that should be going out this year in this year's contract. Was it just your property or was it multiple?
Oh, no, all kinds of, I mean, I'm just, my experience, it was all up and down Strawberry Hill. They were changing. So they created havoc. And I don't want to take up time. It's not my personal thing. I'm just saying, I'm coming at it from a cost perspective. They dug up, I mean, the roads are, never mind paving. When Eversource comes through, I mean, Strawberry Hill is patched up from top to bottom, okay? So anyway, that's my story on Eversource, and
But
apologies.
just to give you a short answer, this 2 million will not gonna be applied to fix that. We're gonna
Friend, Brian has his
get
hand
money
raised.
from Eversource, or
Question for,
they
sorry,
will do it.
Brian,
Vanessa, may I just ask a question?
yeah, go ahead, sure.
Vanessa, you're right. The work done in Cove and the first through to 5th Street is looks very attractive. The sidewalks are made of concrete. Is there nothing which is a little bit more environmentally friendly than the solid concrete?
Unfortunately, Brian, what we do is we don't pick. We have a map actually. It's where we have our urban core. So the urban core requires concrete sidewalks. And then in other areas, we can do asphalt sidewalks. So unfortunately, we just follow our standards unless that is get changed. But so that's why there is a concrete sidewalk, because it's is inside the urban core.
Maybe I didn't hear that properly, but it's our specification and we can't change our specification.
I believe that comes actually from planning and zoning, where that was defined, I don't know how many years ago. That kind of, we have.
Right out, Steve, if you would, please.
and you know, Brian, we have like Woodward Avenue, that is another one that we are doing. And a portion of that road is under the urban core. So we had to do concrete sidewalk. And then after a certain street, it switched to asphalt. So we got a lot of calls because some people were thinking that we are kind of being nice to one area, but not to the other, you know? So usually the concrete one, the asphalt one's the concrete, but we just follow our map. So that's how it goes.
So, and I don't know if Brian's taking a note, excuse me, as far as what is the do we have a standard that you guys say all sidewalks, not to bring up Strawberry Hill, but Strawberry Hill is concrete, it's concrete, asphalt, grass, concrete, asphalt, so it's a mixture. So what is the standard that you're doing sidewalks to?
We follow, there are two things. This question is a little, let me explain a little bit. So there are two things. On type of sidewalk, if it is asphalt or concrete, we follow what we call this urban core map. So there are a few areas in town where we have these areas that are highlighted that it's available at our office. And I believe that also planning and zoning have that, but we definitely do. And then, so we know what type of sidewalk we're going to put on based on that map. The second question is, yes, we have standards for both. So we know what is the minimum requirements to build, what it will be the width, what kind of curb we're going to have and all that. So that is all under DPW and it's under our city standards. And also, to make it a little more complicated, there are some areas in town that are what we call the historic areas or like village areas. For instance, the East Avenue TOD now just will go through rebuilt also on there, where we also request a granite curb instead of a concrete curb in some areas. So yes, we follow a map. And sometimes you see the grass because the sidewalk wasn't installed or there was not a project. When we had back to First Street, there were a few areas where we had different types of sidewalk with different width, and in front of some houses, there was no sidewalk at all because probably the house was built like 50, 60 years ago. And then we just run the sidewalk through. And now if it's a new developer that comes to us, for us to approve the plans, we go back to that map as well, and they will have to install the sidewalk based on that street.
So I'm very, very dumb on this, but all of First Street, Second Street, I know Second Street hasn't been done yet, third, fourth, fifth, all that area is all concrete, but did it have to be all concrete just because X number of years ago it was concrete? Is there not a better, more porous dressing finish we could have to those which are now just solid concrete because we had concrete before?
Again, this was decided many, many years ago, and that's why what we follow. I think that it has to go through probably like another, and it goes back to planning and zoning. I think that will go back for them. And then they will have to tell us, okay, I think that on these areas, we should start having other approach of what different types of sidewalks. So similar to the process that we did with the East Avenue TOD, something like that. And then the only thing that we do, we incorporate what was decided by the other departments.
Okay, so
I'll go back.
Brian Baker, please make a note that we're going to have a discussion on what Brian Baxendale just brought up. Just because sidewalks were done concrete and many years ago, whatever the decision was, how do we change that now into new technology, whatever it is? So please put it as an item of discussion that we can talk about, and after our capital budget stuff, after we're done with that. Okay.
Thank you, Fran.
Yeah.
Could you or Anthony just give your opinion on what you all think is the best sidewalk material, perhaps excluding the urban core because that gets special treatment? What do you like in your average neighborhood?
If I might just clarify here, and especially for you, Brian, from my experience in replacing sidewalks, Vanessa's absolutely right. It seems that wherever we place concrete sidewalks, there's bound to be people that don't want concrete. And then wherever we put asphalt sidewalks, there's bound to be people that would have wanted concrete instead of asphalt. And I don't know how you're going to make a determination without following a certain standard, because you're going to have this conflict in every neighborhood. You're not going to have every neighbor agreeing on what type of sidewalk to use, and so that's why we follow standards.
Excuse me interrupting. It's nothing to do with the preference. The question was, and I didn't make myself clear, is there not a more attractive environmental surfacing we could be using than, let's say, concrete or asphalt? That was the question, sorry. My fault.
Well, I also asked, what does the DPW think in general? Like, what's the most economical to get the most sidewalks down? Or are we, the combination of economical, environmental, and attractive? What do you guys think is the best material?
So on a unit price, asphalt will be always cheaper than concrete. But if you start seeing the usage of it, concrete will overpass asphalt. So on the long-term maintenance and also the years for replacement, then concrete would be better. So, but that's why no one wants the concrete. So usually in front of the houses, on the residential areas, we'll go with asphalt because people would prefer that instead of concrete. That's why on the urban core, usually we get the concrete because it's more a heavy traffic area.
Okay, so listen, we got to move on because we're gonna have a hard break at 9. But the sidewalk question, going back to Brian Baxendale, it's not really a question. I guess we're asking for options, which we're not gonna do now. Meaning is that the only choice? Asphalt and cement?
No,
and then,
Fran, just to add into that, there is, I guess, a third choice. It's extremely expensive, but there's a material, and someone on the commission may know this. It's called FlexiPave. Basically, it's a rubberized material that has kind of I'll say an emulsion in it, but water can go through, right? So it's basically permeable sidewalk. I mean, and then that has crushed stone below it, like our sidewalks typically do, whether it's asphalt or concrete, but you need the crushed stone below the pervious sidewalk so water can get in, go through the stone, and then go into the ground below it.
You see it in a lot of parks more than sidewalks.
That is very expensive. And back, many years ago, it was at least $10 a square foot. It's probably even more, double, triple now. But
It's about $30 a square foot now.
right, that was about 15 years ago, by the way, that price that I gave you, and that was just the flexi pave. That was not the stone below it. So yeah, $30 a square foot is about right with the gravel below. I mean, it would be very difficult to repair as well, especially if there's a utility or some other problem. We do use the flexi pave around tree pits, which is our standard as opposed to using the tree grate. We do use that flexi pave material. So when the tree roots come up, that flexible material won't crack, it won't break, and it allows water in too. So it doesn't create a tripping hazard either. Some of the tree grates over time, they lift, they heave, end up breaking, end up replacing them. I've been around that a long time to know that flexi pave, which we use as a city standard, is what we use in the right of way for a streetscape type of project. But to do everything in flexi pave would not be economically viable. There would be absolutely no way. We could barely keep up with the curbs and sidewalks now with asphalt and concrete. If we went to flexi pave, we'd do a block.
Okay, well, I go back to
Thank you, Anthony.
You're welcome.
Anthony, we'll have a discussion at the planning department because, you know, we
Yes.
got that answer saying it's you guys planning and zoning. So we'll have a discussion and then we'll take on from that. Okay, what's
One good thing to keep in mind with the discussion too is the maintenance of it too, because obviously with snow and things like that on the flexi pave, you go to shovel that, it's very easy to damage it. So there's pros and cons to both.
And when the utility companies break it and then we need to fix it, it's that cost, incurring that cost again.
okay?
Fran,
All right.
I have to just say something. This is a really, really important conversation because it's what we walk on. I personally prefer asphalt because it's a little more forgiving around tree roots and it's easier to repair. Concrete lifts up in slabs and then you end up with those cliffs that, you know, are definitely death traps. But concrete does last longer. And when you have driveways with heavy trucks going over them, that's the rationale for the urban core. As Vanessa was saying, and that makes sense. But I want to just say that to DPW's credit, Paul remembers this. We have some institutional knowledge here. Drew, Mike Yosak, who's not here, but when we redid Cedar Street 10 years ago, the DPW did try a new material. It wasn't FlexiPave, but it was another material. It was an experiment, but you know, had a track record, but it was a failure in some areas. And we thought it was salt, but it was actually just, it wasn't applied right or whatever. DPW came back and fixed it, actually replaced some of it with asphalt, but it did let water go through it, but it was not durable. And it started to basically disintegrate within the first year. And in some patches, we still have a lot of it on Cedar Street. And it's great, you know, where it lasted, but you can't just gamble and hope that it works and, you know, and expect some of it to fail. But I just wanted to throw that out there because there was an attempt made by DPW to try something. We certainly appreciated it in the neighborhood. I don't know what the cost factor was, but it was, I think everybody was just trying to find another material. But whatever that was, whatever it's called, was not successful in the long run, although we still have a lot of it and we're happy with it. But it had to be repaired. And the maintenance, Paul said, the maintenance, you have to vacuum out the sediment out of the pervious pavement. Like every year, you have to vacuum it out or else it fails. But certainly pervious asphalt is something to look into. So, and that is a lot more. It's required in Rye, New York, actually, as on all new asphalt. I know that for a fact. So, but thank you, Fran, for the time. But since we were on the subject, I just thought I would throw that out there.
No, so we'll have a discussion on the planning commission side, okay? All right.
And we're happy to join.
Yeah, please include us.
Yes, we're open. We want to make it nicer and beautiful and all that. But so we're happy to do whatever needs to get that.
We'll coordinate with you guys that we can be part of the discussion. Okay, it's not. Okay, very good.
We appreciate that.
So I think I mentioned the footpath replacement again. This is just in case there are some footpath areas that again we're doing something and then we just need to connect one point to the other there. Usually those are asphalt. The general drainage is still part under the paving. The $500,000 will cover for all the material that we buy and we stock at DPW garage. And also if we need to do some, because most of the times actually we do a lot of repair in our drainage before we pave, because we don't want that to look silly. We don't want to kind of, we have a very good program because we start from the bottom until we go all the way up. So we look at our infrastructure on the roads. If we need to change a catch basin elevation, we videotape all our pipes before, make sure that the drainage is correct. If we need to replace a pipe before we go in. So that's the 500,000 that cover the cost for doing that under those roads as well. So moving on, water course maintenance. We're requesting $3.5 million. This is a combination of the design and the construction for the next area that we're gonna do. Let me just get it here. So our next area is Panos, right? That we're gonna do the study. So as you remember, we just finalized one study now with the money that was appropriated a couple of years ago and also last year. And now we're finalizing the construction documents and we're gonna go into construction. And this is for the second area, that is the Panos. Dredging and marina, we're not asking any money for this year. We haven't got the request. We have a couple of easements, but we move it another year for now. Stormwater management plan, we have been in front of you for a few years. This is a request that we got it, that we know that we have to do to meet our MS4 compliance. We do not have the funds to do it. We are waiting. I believe that we came already. This is our third year for this money, and we usually do not get funded on it. And then we have the letter and everything that went back 2017 that we received from Connecticut DEP. So that's the request for. The Norwalk River flood control, $150,000. The Army Corps of Engineers, they come every year to check on our levee, and we have to do a lot of flood control there. Otherwise, it will affect all the residents in that area because then they will have to start paying flood insurance. So Paul usually meets with them around April. Sometimes they're late and they come in June, what we like, and then they come up with a list of things that we need to do. This year, the list was a little bit wider, and that's why we need $150,000 to be able to meet their request. Coastal resilience, we asked for that last year. It didn't get funded, so that's why it's showing it still as new. We're just trying to create a fund where we can start like seeing what the impact of all the flood and that we're gonna have in some areas that will be affected by the tides, all the coastal areas that may be, and also some beach erosion. So that's what we wanna try to establish some money to be able to do, protect some of those areas that always get flooded. Okay, tree planting, again, this is under our tree program. We request the amount of money every year. We spend all the money that you guys give us. We plant like in the last year about 80 trees, I believe. We got to 80, right, Paul?
Yeah, and even after July 1st, we had, believe it or not, with COVID, we were surprised. This year, average tree planting per cycle, spring or fall, has been about 30 to 35. This year, we planted 56 in the fall alone. So last year, you gave us 65,000, and as of July 1st, 56 trees were just planted, and we have 14,900 to carry over to the spring. So we will spend all of that money. And we're trying to do areas now with the capital tree planting program. After we do what you have in areas B1 through 4 with the paving program, new sidewalks, paving, then we will go back and try and put new trees in as a final dress up of the area too, for the cleaning up the neighborhood after we pave and do the sidewalks, if there's areas that you can put trees. So this is another area to make it a more of a complete project to finish it off with the final dressing of the tree planting.
Very good.
East Avenue roadway and bridge reconstruction. This is the portion of the non-participating streetscape that we are proposing north of 4 Point, including the underground of the utilities that we want to do beyond 4 Point, all the way to Olmsted. You guys already funded part of it last year. The reason why we really need the money this year, I need to emphasize that, is that we are following the Walk Bridge Umbrella schedule. They moved that project to happen this year. Hopefully they're gonna start in July. The state will do the project. They're gonna do the project for us, but what we're gonna get is a bill that needs to cover, we pretty much get an invoice and we need to send a check prior to the start of the bill, of the construction. So we have some money already in our accounts for that, and that's why we're requesting this 2 million and then 1 million so we can finalize the project.
So we have to send the money before the project? Is that what you
Yes,
said?
unfortunately, on this one, it's funny. When they need to pay us, we have to pay in advance, and if we submit the reimbursement, and then takes a month, and then they send us the money. Now, when we own that money, we pay in advance, and then they go build with our money. That's unfortunately how it works. It's kind of a deposit that we need to do.
A quick question.
Sure.
Vanessa, thanks. The state has to go through a bid process the same way we do, isn't that correct? I mean, are we guaranteed that they're spending our money wisely since it's our money? Because our bid process is really strict.
Right. DOT has a very strict process as well. On this project, they may not need to go out for bid because it's under the Walk Bridge umbrella. So they have that kind of GMP set up. It's not even a GMP. There is even, but they already have kind of a contractor on board, and what we do, we go through the cost, and now the contractor will price and guarantee the maximum price before they start construction. And the city, we have been in this process for a couple of years now. We review those costs, and then we can also make sure that whatever they're gonna charge as our portion is correct.
And we're kind of we're the client, I guess, right? So we're overseeing the.
I wish we were the client, Michael. There was a lot of effort between the city and the state to get this project done. So because by the state, they were gonna finish at 4 Point. And then the city saw as a great opportunity to really do a good makeup, on a new gateway that would be the East Avenue with all the issues that we have there, because we're gonna have the bridge replacement, we're gonna have the roadway widened, but this is specific to underground utilities, and also add some to the streetscape. So this will be our portion there. So we had what we saw that it will be a good opportunity actually to pass the state to take the lead and do under their project, because we know that it can get done. It is a 3-step project, but our money goes first, unfortunately. So I just want to emphasize that we really need this money.
Well, I applaud the whole project. It's long overdue.
Yes, I agree. The next one is another one that you guys can highlight about the grant local matching funds. If you go also to the back sheet, this is specific for the LOTSIP grant that we're gonna get. All the background is there. This is particularly for the Wall Street streetscape project that we're doing. We already have a commitment letter that the state will give us 1.516. So pretty much our portion on this one is $475,000. And this money will be for all the non-participating items and also our match so that project can happen. This is also a high topic for us. We're submitting our final design in a couple of weeks. We're hoping that we can get the approval from DOT after the review early summer, and we can hit the ground fall. That's our schedule now. But we should have our remaining. So just highlight that that's a 80-20 on that one as well, please. The next one, I'll just skip because we're not requesting any money for this year unless if you guys want me to go back. Right of way use policy study. Again, I believe that we asked for that last year, didn't get funded. We just need to try to come up with a plan on how, with all the requests that we have from every single utility company coming, what will be the best way to manage them. You know, sometimes you have on the streets like 5, 6, 7 different utility companies, particularly now with fiber, data, cable, and they try to go all over. And sometimes they want to even put some cabinets or some boxes in our right of way. So we would like to maybe develop a more tight policy for that. We believe that this is really coming up. We know that sometimes they cannot get anything on our side and then they go into the property, the private properties, and then they pay someone. But it's something that we would like to have some kind of a study. We know that some communities out there is already have some kind of plan in place, and we would like to have someone that can help us develop something. So that's what is the $75,000. Next one is the state project non-participating city standard amenities. We have a lot of projects going on that is 100% funded by DOT. And sometimes they will come with those very ugly things that they want to put in the middle of the city, and then we fight with them. Some of them we are able to convince they will move that. Some others they will say, oh, we cannot afford that. And what we try to do is we would like to participate, and then maybe we'll cover the cost on some of the items. And also when we have some projects that is still 80-20, we can also use this account to cover some of the items that will be no participating. I hope I didn't talk too fast, that you could guys hear me well. And the other two is just new projects that we're not asking for this year. I am happy to go through, or you guys want to skip?
Skip.
Perfect.
Can I just ask a quick question about the right-of-way policy study?
Sure.
I think it sounds like it's a reasonable thing to have, but would the Westcog organization have anything that they could share with you if some of the other towns around us already have these type of programs?
I don't think that anyone nearby has, Tammy. I think that it's more like in different areas of the country. So that's why we would like to have some kind of a consultant that would be able to do that research for us, and then kind of can focus on what are the other municipalities out there are doing.
Okay, any other questions for Vanessa? Okay, what's next?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next.
You're next. Okay.
Yes, I am.
Yes.
So Parks and Next is last on the agenda, and we are starting on page 70 of the binder.
Yep.
So project number 1, and these are listed in priority. And to your earlier comment, yes, we did prioritize them again in ranking, but we also did look at the request last year versus what we're making this year, considering the financial situation the city is in, considering the situation of the Parks Department with not being able to run programs, not being able to generate revenue. We deliberately asked for less this year. So you'll see as I go through this, there's some items that I am either reducing or eliminating or asking to be pushed out. I'll start with schools and parks playgrounds. We're asking for $260,000. That originally was submitted for the renovation or the replacement of Flax Hill Park at $140,000. That's a 15-year-old playground. And part of the issue is trying to find replacement parts for it. The other part of that request, $120,000, was for Devon Place and Oyster Shell Park. That's for the surfacing. They have rubberized surfacing at both of those sites. There's good news and bad news with this request. The good news is we were able to shift some money closed out some previous playground projects, and we made repairs to Flax Hill, so we don't need the 140 there. However, the estimates to do Oyster Shell Park and Matthews, which both of those projects were donation projects to the city, so we had very little oversight at the time of the construction. They're both over 10 years now, and both of the subsurface for those playgrounds are failing. They're rubberized playground instead of sand or instead of mulch, and all of the touch points under the swings, under the slides are completely torn up, and they're also sinking in a bunch of spots. So the cost estimate for both of those for Oyster Shell was approximately $76,000. And for Devon's Place, which is the city's first boundless playground, it's fully ADA accessible. That came in at $206,000. So yes, it's a little bit short to do both of those, but I've spoken to Darlene Young, who's the Parks Chair, but also heads up the city's ADA project list. She's going to work with me to supplement the rest of the funding for that. So that $260 that we're asking for will go to complete the playground surfacing at Oyster Shell and Devon's Place, both very heavily used sites. So that's the first request.
Question, Nick.
Yes.
Regarding Devon Place, that was a donation from a family. Kids with disabilities use that place. A lot of the sunken spots is from the water runoff from the parking lot area. So with this design concept, are you all looking to have a structure or infrastructure where you can avoid the water runoff? There's a lot of water going through that playground.
I was not aware of the drainage issue impacting the playground surfacing, but I will ask DPW staff, of course, to take a look at the drainage as well as the sloping and the pitching of the parking lot to the playground. And then, you know, if we need to put in a barrier or build up the curbing to those areas, we can also do so. We have a paving contract or a paving request separately of that we can also access to do that work.
And just one last question regarding Devon's Place. As far as the lighting on the back end of that, it's a little dark back there. I know we have tennis lights and stuff. Just if you could just, you know, go by after 5:30 or so, just to take a look what I'm talking about, but maybe some lighting towards the other side of the road, walking up to that area. It's a real dark spot. Just keep that in mind.
Yeah, we have some money left over at Matthews, about $60,000 for lighting at the park. We held off on doing any work until the DOT finished their repairs at the mansion, because if you notice, they've torn up a portion of the grounds there. So we're waiting for them to finish their work. And then we are going to look to use the rest of the money to do and improve the lighting at the site. So we'll take a look at that area back there.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Any more questions in regards to playgrounds before I move on to the next item?
Yeah,
No, just keep going. We'll stop you when people have questions, okay?
Got it. So my next request is for Calf Pasture Beach. We're looking for $700,000 there to do the remilling and repaving and restriping of the parking lots only at Calf Pasture and Shady Beach. Those lots were done decades ago. I don't know the exact date. They've been patched several times, but never really a true remill and restriping of the area. So part of this is a bigger plan to just redo the entire site. With the remilling and the paving, we want to restripe it and add additional resident-only parking spaces in the main lot, which we do not have currently. The only areas at the beach right now where there's resident-only parking is along the seawall, where the Coast Guard Auxiliary Station is, and at Shady Beach. So with the increased number of residents moving to the area and the buildings and everything else, we think it's important to add additional resident parking spaces there. And remilling and repaving the road allows us to do that as well. And then part of this is, like I said, part of this is part of a bigger plan. Eventually next year, if you look into capital request, we also have a request to reconfigure the perimeter roadway around the entire site. Right now, you can come in and it goes all the way around, but if you use that same road, there's a big loop in it with, I think there's a utility pole and a big grass area. We want to close the configuration of the roadway in the future, which will provide additional parking where the ball field is. So no longer will we have on concert nights ball field, games going on, volleyball games, and then everyone's in the main parking lot. So it's part of a bigger plan, but this is the first phase to really repave and remill the parking lots and then do the subsequent road work down the road.
Okay, question on when you're remilling, are you looking at also the drainage problems that came out from when it was first done? That the water pools over there and all that
Yes.
stuff?
There's saltwater intrusion that comes up through one of the sewers in the middle of the parking lot. So yes, we will take that into consideration. And again, under the recent reorg, we've had DPW look at a lot of our projects before they go out to the public, and they provide their expertise with drainage and all these things. So we will definitely tap them to take a look at it to address this, the issue of the saltwater intrusion through the parking lot.
Is it salt water? I mean, when it rains, you still got those big pools of water. Is it just salt water?
Even on sunny days, you'll see ponding of water in the parking lot there.
Okay, as long as you're taking that into consideration.
Yep.
I heard somebody else's voice.
Nick, Brian, Nick, what's happening with the Rex Marina revamping where the road is moved and we have access points down the side?
We are currently still in negotiations with the Gardellas about the easement access. And with the future road reconfiguration, it does provide a better layout for the folks going into those parcels on the Gardella side, and then also for them coming into the park. As part of our reconfiguration, we're going to have a different entrance for non-residents into the park, and then a different egress out of the park. No longer are we gonna have people use that road closest to where we do the concerts, closest to the park. We wanna move the main egress out to the middle of the park. So that way, that roadway closest to the park where families walk over, pay for parking, look at the movies, that will become almost like a bike and pedestrian corridor. So it'll have a better, it'll be safer. It'll have a better route for biking and walking as well, and safer to get to the beach and to the concert area and to the pavilions and to Ripka's Cafe. All those things are part of the new layout we have in mind.
Thank you.
Just to follow up, I mean, I think the city is still, I think common councils, I don't know what the negotiations are with the Rex Marina, and good question, Brian. Has that been signed off by the city to Nick, while you guys are proposing all this stuff?
No, but no, there has not been a final agreement signed off on, but the Gardellas did submit or did work with us on this layout. This is a preferred layout for the city as well. DPW looked at it, the Gardellas looked at it, Parks looked at it, and this is the best layout for us. Like I said, it increases circulation at the site, in and out. It provides safer bike and pedestrian access. And then with this repaving, we're also able to provide additional resident-only parking. And then the area and the easements that will be lost, that area, that gravel road closest to the fence between the park and the Gardella's property, which is now used as overflow parking, those parking spaces will be recaptured once we take out that island, reconfigure and close the perimeter roadway. With that ball field parking closer to the fields and closer to that bathroom, we're capturing those parking spaces back there. So the plan works for everyone.
Well, not to belabor the point, but it was a very, well, many discussion that we had at that time with the attorney there for the city and all that stuff. So is the attorney, and it's not, I mean, I heard you what you said, negotiating with you guys and the Gardellas, whatever. Is the attorney for are the city's rights being looked at? Is the attorneys involved for the city, or?
Absolutely. Absolutely. They are leading the negotiations with the Gardellas. And again, we have a layout that works for everyone. I think right now we're just, in all honesty, looking at the compensation for the easements. And that's being handled with the city attorneys, and making sure that it fits all of the usage and the deed restrictions, all those types of things we've investigated and we've brought to the attention of the attorneys on both sides.
Okay, no, because compensation was a big discussion at the planning commission meeting, and anyway, not to belabor, as long as you're all coordinated and we're good. Thank you.
That was why we went back and we did test pits on the road. We looked at the substructure. We looked at what it's going to take to bring it up to city standard. All those types of things we've looked at, we've analyzed, we have a cost estimate for, and it's part of the negotiation.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Bran?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so that, I applaud all that. This all makes great sense. And the timing was good because of the easement situation and the need to redo the parking lots anyway. So all that's good. Now, normally we would, in general, we look at pervious paving as recharging groundwater, right? And that's kind of the need in upland areas because it gets filtered and instead of throwing it into streams or whatever. In this situation though, the pervious paving would be a filter mechanism. If you were to do pervious asphalt, which would require vacuuming once a year, as you know, you probably know this, or at least I know the DPW folks know this, but the pervious asphalt is now required, I know in the town of Rye, on all new projects, for at least on residential driveways. I think they were using it in parking lots. But the reason for that would be to filter the water into the ground where before it got discharged out into the sound, where we have oysters and eelgrass and all of that happening. That, all the runoff right now carries oil, brake fluid, whatever falls on the asphalt. Also goose droppings and all that stuff, which is horrible pollutant, believe it or not, with the phosphates.
Mm-hmm.
So all that could get filtered into pervious paving. I would really strongly recommend you look at using pervious asphalt at Calf Pasture. It is so important because this is an opportunity to really clean up that part of the sound. We had, there were runoff issues. It turned out it was a sanitary sewer from, I think from Ribka's years ago, and this is before your time. But we were having, shellfish bed closings and water quality issues. That was fixed. But this would really be, there's acres and acres of asphalt down there that would be great if that could be done with pervious. I think it would be a great model for the city, and it's in one of the most environmentally sensitive areas. And the only other thing I want to say is definitely don't do reverse angle parking at the beach because people like to look at the water. But at this other location, reverse angle would make a lot of sense if you're even looking at angled parking. I don't know, but you're going to have bicyclists in the road. And when I go there, I actually don't like backing into traffic, like on game nights and concert nights. And when I'm parking there to look at, I park by the beach sometimes, I have to back into traffic. So the reverse angle really would be something to consider on the other side. I'm not involved in this, but I'm just throwing it out there as what a great opportunity to do a safer, what's considered a much safer parking alternative to angled parking, but not at the water, because nobody wants to be facing with their back to the waters. That would be a really bad thing to do. But on the other side of the park, yes. So that's all I want to say.
Well, not everybody's a fan of the back end pulling in parking, okay? So I'm not a fan, just so you know.
You got to back in either direction. So you either back into traffic or you back in control. Let's not get into it.
That's it. Move on.
I'll defer to the DPW folks on the cost of using regular pavement versus pervious material. But we did also talk to the Bike Walk Commission about the bike lanes around that particular area you mentioned along the seawall, and how do we do that, running behind the cars or whether we run the bike lane in front of the cars. But we have had discussions about that, and we are considerate of bikes being able to do that whole loop around there.
Good, because that's the southern terminus of the Norwalk River Valley Trail.
Correct.
So it's actually, that is so important. Thank you. That's great news. Correct. And I would say always consider the environmental costs when you're considering the cost of the pervious asphalt, because when the shellfish beds close,
after heavy rains. A lot of that is because of the oil and the bird droppings from the geese, believe it or not. And that can, what is the cost of a closing of our oyster industry, right? So I have a feeling that there would be no question as to this should be pervious paving. I would bet my life on it that you're going to end up with it. And I would be very disappointed if you didn't. But anyway, that's
okay.
that's for a strong statement.
All right.
Okay.
So this is where my, sorry.
Thank you.
Tammy, go ahead.
I would like to also agree with Mike Newshak. I think pervious paving would be awesome there. I'm wondering if the state has any opportunities for, you know, possible grant applications on something like that, since I believe the state and, you know, is very much wanting to clean up the sound. And if Norwalk can help be a part of that, I think it would be a nice opportunity for us.
Nick, I can add to that a little bit if you don't mind that I jump in. Actually, we got a grant from about $250,000 that we are applying at Webster Lot to help with the water quality in there. So yes, there are some funds available. We will look into it to see if we can apply something to calf pasture parking lot as well.
Great.
Thank you, Vanessa. All right, so this is where my budget got thrown off this year. So the next two projects are the turf softball field at Brian McMahon, as well as the Broad River Baseball Complex. And these may be familiar because you approved funding for design in fiscal year 1920, as well as construction in this current fiscal year. Field space and field conditions has always been a huge point of interest in the city. These two fields are conversions of grass fields to synthetic turf fields, and then the addition of lights, which decreases downtime for field conditions, helps out with maintenance because they're already painted for games, and then increases playability because of the lights component to it, right? But these projects currently are short on funds to complete. The request, an initial request for construction funding was estimated at $1 million for the softball field at Brian McMahon, and then 2.5 for the field at Broad River. At Brian McMahon, we're looking at a shortage of about $600,000. And again, part of the reason why it's more expensive at that site is we're changing the orientation of the field. We've learned from the previous two construction projects at the site of the baseball field and then the multipurpose field known as the pit. Those were built really close to the adjacent properties. And we've had a number of complaints about balls over the fences, noise, litter, all those types of things. So when we looked at the softball field at Brian McMahon, we wanted to change the orientation of it to move it away. The current layout puts the home plate right next to the neighbor's yards, and we're flipping the orientation of it. And then the addition of lights, which isn't there. And then also the addition of a new scoreboard and press boxes. We wanted to make sure that we met the Title IX requirements for providing the girls' softball field at the school to what the boys have. You have to provide equitable access for both males and females there, and we have to provide the same components, and that's why we're seeing an increase in the cost of the project for the softball field there.
Is there a press box and whatever on the boys' side?
Yes, yes. So the boys right now they have lights, they have batting cages, they have pitching and warm-up areas, and it's turf as well, scoreboard, press box, everything.
But this is Nick. This is a much smaller field, right?
Correct.
Okay, so I've yet to go to a ball game on the boys' side where the press box or whatever the announcing has taken place. Okay, and I wonder why we spend so much money on these things. I don't know if they're just done for championship games. I don't know, but I've yet to be at a game where that's being used.
Correct, and because the lights were there, I'll even bring up another point. So because the lights were there, even though the games, 90% of their games are played in daytime, because of course they're playing in the spring into summer,
where the daylight hours until 8:30, they don't really play night games. But because because there's a precedent for the boys to have it, because of the Title IX requirements, we have to provide the same facilities for the girls. So that's why we're having these little bit of elevated costs to do that field there.
It's $620,000 worth of elevated costs.
Yes, the lights in particular, as well as contingencies are built into that. We're adding water there. Like I said, we're adding the press boxes, the batting cages, the pitching mounds, all those types of things. The same exact thing the boys have.
The boys have water on that side?
I can't recall if they have it on that side or how close it is to the boys' baseball field. But we felt that the girls should have it on their side as well, because it's not only for the school sports. We also use these facilities after hours. So because we're putting lights there, because we're going to have weekend usage, the schools are going to be closed during those times. But we, the public, and our Park and Rec program still needs access. And we thought having water there for the games on the weekends was a good amenity to add to the project.
I would say spend money on putting a bathroom on top of the hill versus at the bottom of the hill. By the time you get to the restrooms over there, you're done. So go ahead.
Okay. The Nathan Hale lighting a few years ago was a heated debate in the city, but the facts that came out of that were that growth of the league use was very important to have the lighting, and I suspect the girls softball program might grow into the nighttime use, even though the current usage you're saying is not there at all. Every time we would, hear, I'm sure we'll hear from parents in the public hearing, but it's always they'll definitely use it if it's there. Like if we build it, they'll come.
Yes.
And that the reason why you don't see a lot of usage is because of the condition of a lot of the current fields are so bad, and the lack of lighting. So I'm just going to throw that out there because it sounds a little like you're throwing in the lighting, to be equitable. Of course, that's important, but that it's going to be used, I'm sure.
Absolutely. And remember, with having lights there and having the turf there, we now have extended play later into the year. We can actually use that field for not just baseball. We can use it for flag. We can use it for any type of programming that the parks run outside of the school hours. You're absolutely right. It's not just designed, and its main function does serve the girls softball team, but the parks department and the public programming piece is also vital to it.
And their marching band. Their fabulous marching band.
Nick, I have a question regarding that turf. What sports could be used on this turf, with the exception of softball?
I believe we're marking also for lacrosse this one.
Correct. The school will be using it for field hockey and girls lacrosse as well. And then we can use it, the Parks Department can use it to program for any type of, like I said, whether it's flag football, whether it's youth soccer, whether it's, any type of athletics on a open grass area, we can use that field for as well.
And that will be exclusive to Norwalk teams and residences first, correct? Okay.
Correct. So we have a priority of who gets field usage in the city. It's generally starts with the schools, then it's parks programs, then it's our non-for-profit programming partners, then it's adult sports, and then it's for-profit organizations at the end. So that's how we prioritize who gets our fields and who gets permits to use those facilities.
One last question. During COVID, what sports were in more of a demand to play, or what sports were being played on the selected fields that we have in Norwalk?
We actually ran our routine summer programs, athletics, all outdoor programs we actually ran. Our programming partners had to submit a COVID reopening plan, but we had everything from soccer to lacrosse to, actually we did girls lacrosse. We didn't do boys because boys had contact. There was a whole list of Department of Health's recommendations and guidelines that the city followed and permitted. Again, we did baseball, we did soccer. I can't remember off the top of my head, but there were guidelines that the Department of Health provided, and that's what we followed. And as long as those programming partners had a reopening plan, which included, a questionnaire about whether or not they had been exposed to COVID and they took their temperature, all those same things that we do now to go into a store were the same types of requirements that our program partners had to do to run their programs last year.
Thank you.
And
Okay.
actually more of the same things we do this year, because the way it's looking, we're going to be restricted with interior space. So our programming will be all focused outside. So instead of doing a lot of traditional summer camp programs where they would be in a school, in a classroom, in a cafeteria for 8 hours, we're going to end up probably doing more programming, more sports, more outdoor stuff to try to make sure that we don't expose kids to any type of, increased elevation for COVID.
Especially non-contact sports, correct?
Correct.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
In the Broad River Complex, how long will it take to build that? And that's not near any school now. So everybody that plays there has to get there by bus or by their parents. Is that right?
You're talking about at Broad River?
Yes.
Yes. So there's 2 baseball fields there. This new project, and again, this is a larger size and scale project. This is the first site that we're doing multiple fields. This is a 3-field layout. It will have a concession and restroom. It will have lights. It will have a replacement playground. So it's a much bigger size and scale project. And that's why the need is there for the additional 2.5. So it's actually a $5 million project overall. And like I mentioned before, this originally was estimated at 2.5 when we started this process in 2018. The design was completed last year. And with the site work and everything else, this is what the consultant is coming back at as an estimate, 4.6. And then we also built in a contingency in there. So it's a $5 million project. In regards to your specific question, yes, most of the players there, most of the programming there revolves around the Little League program, but we've never really used it because, again, of the same thing, the field conditions, no lights later in the year. This gives us more playability, additional site, so it'll help take the ease off of demand for field space, and we'll have additional programming opportunities at the site as well. As far as transportation, it's off of Silver Mine, which does have a bus route. It's right close to Merritt, one of the exits there. So it's easily to drive to, and there is community and residents in the local area as well.
Nick, this is double the cost.
I know.
It's another $2.5 million.
I know.
And I remember all the discussion on this thing, and I mean, are you revamping tennis courts? Are you revamping parking?
No,
So for $5 million, Nathan Hale over there cost $4 million with no bathrooms. And now we've added bathrooms after many, many years of talking about it. Okay. So are you adding bathrooms to this complex?
Yes.
What are we doing for $5 million?
So this project, hold on one second, because I did have that down. This project has 3 ball fields, additional parking. We're expanding parking at the site. We're adding a restroom and concession building. We're adding a press box. The fences that are going around the field are actually going to be removable, so we can program not only for baseball, but we can use it for other sports as well. And it'll have a new playground, because we've had to relocate the playground and the tennis court. The tennis court actually will not be reinstalled, just the playground as well. So it's new parking, it's 3 fields, it's new restrooms.
You're getting rid of the tennis courts?
Yes.
I mean, they're used, aren't they? I mean, I don't know how this.
We took it to the Park and Rec Committee. We mentioned it, that there's a possibility would be losing it. They voted to move ahead with just the playground reinstallation there. But we've monitored use there. There's the Oak Hills tennis courts, which is probably less than 2 miles away. That's available to the public. There's also Matthews, that's the same 2.5 miles away from the same site as well. I know it's not ideal, but there's no way we could have gotten 3 fields under any type of reconfiguration without losing the courts.
Yeah, so why did we have to go to 3 fields? I mean, it's been 2 fields there with the playground. Where's the playground going now?
The playground will be at the entrance. When it'll be almost like a plaza. When you come in, you'll have the concession and the restroom building to the left. You'll have a brand new playground to the right. The parking will be expanded. So it's almost like a plaza as you come into the main field. But this was originally built, or it was originally designed for 3 fields. It was built or tasked as a baseball complex. So the Little Leagues wanted the 3rd field to be able to host championship games and tournaments. And that's why they went for the bigger layout of having 3 fields. And again, we can use it for multiple sports once the season is over.
I have 3, Fran, after you.
I'm speechless on the cost, okay? So go ahead.
I was as well, in all honesty.
So first is the parking situation. As you know, the fire department has a space there. The parking going out along the side of the fence. Have you guys looked at the parking? How many spaces are there current and how many spaces will be proposed?
I think when we looked at it, there was 62 spaces. We actually tried to get to 100. 62 is required by code, by the way. We tried to get to 100 because we anticipate with 3 fields, you're gonna have more games going on, more fans, more traffic. So I can't remember off the top of my head, Steve. I think we got it up to 92 or 94. I have the layout that I can send it to you.
That's fine.
That was one of the things that we kept in mind was expanding the parking lot. We're actually gonna get, I think, 8 parking spaces where the main parking lot is right now, and the fire lot on the other side, we're actually expanding that down as well. And I think there was another 24 spaces over there. So
next to the dumpster, next where the dumpsters are, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Right where the fire lot is, just expanding it down that road.
And I have one concern. I'm being a little selfish here. The concern is neighboring New Canaan. I'm really big on Norwalk, having you guys tighten up the Norwalk different leagues to have us utilize all of our fields with the outside towns coming in and using our fields, whether it's on our register or not. So I feel like there will be an interest coming, and I would like us to protect the Norwalk interest first. Second of all, I really am looking for the support of these fields by having the parents and the kids of the schools and the leagues that sign up to come support these actual causes. My grandfather's cousin just passed last week. His name is Hank Aaron. We were just talking about how he loved baseball so much. And hopefully we can get a superstar out of Norwalk in the next 5 years. We're talking about build this foundation. Maybe with these things, Brian Baxdale and I could sit down 10 years from now with Mike Mushak and Fran and Mary and Tamara, and Tammy say, you know what, you remember that baseball field? We have somebody going to the major leagues. I mean, we have some local guys, Mo Vaughn, Pete Tucci, and so forth, but it'll be good to have the kids come up, do something that they're passionate about, have the support of us to make this town not just a town that people could play and enjoy themselves, but people are inside now. So looking for the outside uses with COVID. So I'm supporting this with eyes open, not eyes closed.
Well, to your point, going through COVID, we really got a handle of who uses our fields, right? Because we had to send staff out to really check, and people were calling and saying, hey, there's a group here playing, right? So we really got a really good idea of who's using our field. We did have permit users, we did have non-permitted users. So we have a better idea of what's going on out there. This project, even though Broadwalk Little League will be the primary user because it's their home field, this really is going to be one of the jewels in the park system. This is a 3-field baseball complex. We don't have anything like that with the exception of the beach, right? But the beach can be challenging because you have paid parking there in the season. So this is really one of the facilities that can host many different tournaments, state tournaments, not just Broad River Little League, but other programs will have an opportunity to play on the same field. And again, once the season's over, we can still use it for other programming by the Parks Department. So trust me, I was sticker shocked as well at the price tag for it. You know,
So based on that sticker, based on that sticker price, and I'm thinking out loud, but having a financial background and thinking about Mr. Baxendale over there, the additional revenues, have you guys anticipated in the Park and Recs committee? Do you guys have a financial review on what would be the influx of income coming into our city? Have you guys thought about that to offset?
We have not looked at specific projections with regards to the impact of capital projects, right? But we have looked at our fees, our department fees.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, fees.
Yeah. So last year was my first year with the department. I did a comparable look at all the municipalities around us for beach parking, right? Realized that we were $20 below what everyone else were charging, right? So we made adjustments to that. That's now at market rate. This year, we looked at the boating rates. We were $35 below in those rates. We're gonna raise those. We have a hearing scheduled next week. The next fee that's on my to-do list is programming fees. We have a number of youth programs, both existing that's been grandfathered in, as well as a number of other programming partners that wanna get into the city. And the reason why I think the demand is so high is because we typically charge $5 per child to these organizations to run these programs, right? That type of agreement is standard in the park and rec industry, but the rate that we're using, again, we're way below market rate, right? So I called Stanford. I think Stanford charges, I believe, something like $28 per child for all their programming partners. The city receives $28 of the registration that these clubs handle. I think I called Fairfield. I think they're at $15, right? We're at $5. So yes, this is on my list next year to definitely look at bringing it up to market rate. And then it also coincides with the completion of West Rocks. That's going to be done this year. If we can somehow get the funding to do softball field at the school, as well as Broad River, those are additional amenities that's going to drive registration, because all these kids are going to want to play on these brand new fields. And when having a higher fee structure with these clubs, it will generate revenue for the Parks Department. So yeah.
Nick, just one clarification. Who are the programming partners? What does that mean?
Those are all our Little League clubs. So like Broad River Little League, Cal Ripken, Babe Ruth, the girls softball program. There's a bunch of them. NJSA soccer. Those are all non-for-profit groups that provide programming services in partnership with the city. They basically run the programs and they use our facilities and they give us a part of the registration fee back to the city. So that's
so hold on. So they give you back a part of, not the whole. So what's the part of? What percentage is that they give you?
Like $5 per child.
Based on, I know. So the fee is what? I'm just trying to.
The fees for these programs can range. You can have one program that charge a child up to $150 for Little League baseball.
Okay, so this is let's say the soccer league, whatever. They charge a child $150, but they give the city $5.
$5 per child, yes.
Okay, so you're looking to restructure if whatever they charge, and they set their own ways, right? But you're looking to relook at what they pay back to the city.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's something that you can control, Nick.
Yes.
You can actually control that fee. There are kids that cannot afford these fees. There's 3 nonprofits in Norwalk that can offset some of these fees. And I think since you're new to the area, we can entertain some of them. One of which the chief of police was on the record yesterday. He's strongly supportive of the PAL program, Police Athletic League. And there's resources that I've counted about $400,000 of idle money that has not been touched in 5 years. That adults are gathering funds to allocate to these kids, and whoever asks for it should get it.
Yep.
Fran, Tamara has her hand raised.
Sorry.
Okay, but before we go on, I'm gonna say that it's 8:30. So whatever we don't get done, at 9 we're stopping, and we're gonna have to come back tomorrow night, just so that everybody keeps that in mind.
Mine is very short. My son grew up in Little League baseball at Broad River. I'm very, very familiar with it. Also NJSA, the soccer. Your fees are very inexpensive compared to other cities. I was a parent that could afford it. I would have been willing to pay more. And I'm sure there were many other parents who would be willing to pay more who could. So I would strongly suggest that you raise your fee, because that is also an attractive point of Norwalk, is
Correct.
the
Affordability.
affordability of these activities for both boys and girls. And he started at 4. What is that? The T-ball?
Yep.
The T-ball all the
Yep.
way up to going to Broad River. And I think they played the championship with Stanford.
Yep.
If you increase your price, I'm sure parents would be willing to pay for it.
Well, let me ask a clarification then, because I'm confused then. Are you charging, so the teams, the junior soccer can charge 150 for kid, right? But then who's paying the $5? Is the junior soccer league or are parents paying that $5?
The organization pays the fee based on the total number of registered participants to the city.
Okay, so then I'm confused then. The parents are paying the fee to have their kid play to whatever league it is, right? So you're not asking for a separate fee to the city. The club, from whatever money they're collecting, which seems to be a lot of money versus what they pay to the city for the use of taxpayers funded stuff, like the $2.5 million here. Okay, I'm clear. Go ahead.
Okay. And I have a one comment, Fran.
Go ahead.
2 seconds. We have to also think of the economic impact of these leagues having top-notch fields on the local businesses around the corner in Broad River. People are going to grab dinners to go, lunches, all of that. Maybe go have a beer afterwards, whatever. But that there's an impact to having more people there on the a positive impact. That's one. It's not tangible. Like you can't really put a number on it. We've had this issue in South Norwalk, but but you know that it's there. And the other thing is on property values. It just makes the community more attractive for someone to move here or raise their family here, knowing we have top rate facilities. I don't have kids, I don't play kids, but I'm happy to use my taxpayer dollars for youth sports in any way, shape, or form. There could not be a better investment, I think, in the city for keeping kids out of trouble, team benefits, all of that, but also the economic impact on local businesses and on property values. So it's all around a win-win, but it's obviously a big investment, but those facilities are just embarrassing right now. And that's not the people have been trying hard.
I'm not arguing any of your points, okay? It's a sticker shock after approving $2.5 million last year, and here we are at $2.5 million, okay? I'm not arguing any of your points, okay?
Yeah, and I wasn't arguing with you. I'm just adding to the big picture of what it goes through our minds or should go.
And last but not least, Fran, Nick, naming of that field with a corporate sponsor or something. I don't know if you have bounced that around, but please keep that on that hot list for that field.
Absolutely.
So that we can have more support for that concept.
We've been talking about naming rights for at least 4 years, if not more. Okay,
it should be called the Miglio Field. The Miglio Field.
No.
It sounds good to me.
No, we talked about corporate. And I remember we talked about. I don't care if somebody came in right now and they want to call it blah blah blah, and they offer $2.5 million, but the city's not doing that. I mean, we've talked about it ad nauseum, but nobody's taking the flag, if you will, to bring that forth. So maybe it's got to be an initiative from your side to look for corporate sponsorships. You know, we have a lot of things going on in Norwalk, and a corporation or whatever would be happy to, you know, look at city fields, look at all those major fields are all called after somebody, right? So anyway, if you can explore naming rights with corporations, please do.
I will say one of the major initiatives for me in my department is to drive it to sustainability, right? We have to be self-sustainable, because if we're relying on general funds for everything, we're not going to survive, right? You look at the economic impact of COVID and everything else not making revenues. That's why I think the facilities are a key piece, because you need facilities to drive revenue. Let me get through the rest of the list, because I know we have limited time here.
Yep, go ahead.
Basketball and tennis courts. I'm requesting $300,000 for the renovation of the tennis courts at
Yeah, but you skipped Cranberry Park.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. So Cranberry Park is important. Cranberry Park, we're asking for $450,000. However, I have good news. Instead of the $450, I am able to do the required work with $250 instead. And that's because the bid for the windows and doors in this fiscal year is going to come in at $150,000 below what we had requested and approved the last year. So instead of the $450, $250 is all I need, and that's going to take care of the remaining masonry work along the walls up to the roof and down to the basement, as well as the caretaker's house, which needs a new roof and new siding. So that number actually needs to decrease from $450 to $250.
Okay, good news. Go ahead.
Okay. The next item is the basketball and tennis courts, $300,000. I am requesting that for Matthews Park. Matthews Park is the only tennis courts, public tennis courts with lights that are open to the public at all hours, at all days. And I think the lights are on until 10 o'clock. The other sites where we have multiple tennis courts are on school sites, and those courts aren't available to the public until after hours. So I think this is a good investment. And if you look at the condition of the courts there, they are cracking badly. We cannot resurface them anymore. They have to be completely redone. And what's the hazard about the cracking is it's on the surface, it's on the playing surface itself. So that's why I'm asking for that money at Matthews, $300,000 to post-tension concrete system for 3 courts at that site. The next item I have is Veterans Park. There was actually an error in the budget sheets. The first item listed is the replacement of the docks, but somehow it has the wrong fiscal year next to it. So instead of 425, it actually is 750. And the reason why we need that done, this was an item that I asked for last year. Those docks are over 25 years old. They're concrete docks, and they are cracking and they are sinking. Also, the gangway down to the docks themselves, the pilings are completely rotted. They are cracking, and they are so wobbly, you can literally shake it with your hand because it's rotted at the bottom. I have photos of these things. I will send to Brian. All of my capital projects have photos attached to it so you can see the actual site conditions. But take a look at this if you get a chance. The conditions, the bracings underneath the pilings are completely rotted out. And the other issue with that is risk management contacted us earlier this year to insure the docks. Right now, we don't have insurance on the docks. And I don't know exactly why we need insurance when the city is self-insured, but they're going to have an inspection of the docks. And I have a feeling that because of the condition, the rates or the premium for the insurance are either A, going to be too high, or we're not going to be insurable because of the condition of the docks itself. So this is something that I asked for last year. It was not approved. It's something that has to get done at some point in time. It's $750,000, but I'm afraid at some point we may not be able to utilize that dock anymore because of safety. Either it's the gangway, either it's a sinking, or either it's the pilings breaking away. So that's really a priority we need to look at.
Excuse me, Nick, do residents or do the users of the dock, people, boaters, do they pay fees to do that?
Absolutely. There is a fee depending on the length of boat. And I think on average, it's something like, on average, it's about $800 for the season for a 20-foot boat or smaller.
So a resident buys a season pass based on the size of their boat.
Correct.
And then there's somebody
about,
there monitoring that only people that have permits use the dock.
yes, they purchase it through our parks office. They each have a specific slip that they park their boats in. They have a key card. They have everything that's set up with them. There's about 90 slots on both docks. There's 2 docks in particular. And we have, right now, we have about a 75% occupancy rate. We had to fix some of the fingers last year. And by doing that, we hope to increase the occupancy, but the main dock itself is cracking and sinking.
Thank you.
About the docks, we have in Vets Park, we used to have a cruise liner come in and cities should charge them fees to port. And I guess with the dock, it's not useful for them to come in. Do you foresee that being a good revenue producer or not?
So you're talking, there's 2 sides of Vets Park. There's the boat launch and the boat ramps on the side closest to the bridge. And then you have the marina, which is on the far side next to the restaurant back there. So there's 2 parts to it. We have transient boaters that come in and dock and then can go down to the business district on the ramp side. And then we also have people who can launch their boats daily, weekly. That's staffed. I believe that generated about $80,000 in revenue, and we're raising the fees this year. So we hope to see an increase in revenue there. And then the marina side, which again, we have about 75% occupancy there. Yes, I think it's much needed in the area because it's affordable compared to what you can pay at any of the local marinas here. So I think it's a value that the residents enjoy, and it's a good amenity. I would recommend keeping it and improving it for sure.
Okay.
Go ahead, move on.
The next item I have are vehicles. We are requesting to replace 2 pickup trucks, which are approximately 10 years old. It's not the age is the reason of why we want to replace these trucks, but we use these things 7 days a week for everything from salting to garbage, litter pickup. They're completely rusted out on the underneath. One of these vehicles in particular, we had to re-weld the body to the frame, so they're in really bad condition. 2 of those we are looking, 2 of those we're looking at, and I think it's in the budget sheets. 2 of those are at about $90,000. And those will also have plow attachments to them. Right now, we only have 2 vehicles with plow attachments. So this will give us 2 more, which will help us with snow removal in the winter. These are F-250 pickups. They're not the big, heavy dump trucks that DPW has. These are regular pickups that we use year round. That's $90,000. We're also asking for a Bobcat for Cranberry Park for $60,000 and a backhoe for $120,000. My priorities out of all those 3 would be the 2 pickup trucks and the Bobcat. The backhoe is in really bad condition. The floor is completely rotted, but we changed and installed a new metal flooring on the backhoe. I think that'll hold out for another year or 2. But the vehicle's in really bad shape, and the Bobcat is needed as a dedicated vehicle at Cranberry for leaf blowing, for snow plowing, for maintaining of the trails around the entire park. So that would be my preference, is the 90 and the 60, and the 120 can be pushed to next year if need be.
Okay.
The next item I have is Casa
Now,
Grande.
now listen, you got Casa Grande, which is what, Brian McMahon, Testa is Norwalk.
Correct.
This is 500,000. So returfing the field was $1 million. So it costs 500,000 just to do the track.
Those are the estimates we have, yes. And we've patched these a number of times. The underlayment below those tracks are failing, and it's getting soft, but the surface is also deteriorating. You know, we didn't have a track season this year. We can probably push this another year if need be. Both of those projects are $1 million combined. We can probably push that another year, get another year out of use of it. especially if sports are what they are this year. But yes, the condition of the tracks and the underlayment are failing. We've patched it. We can't do any more repairs to it. So we have to replace it at some point. They're both about 8 to 10 years old.
Okay.
The new high school plan may affect the fields as well. So I don't think we know if that might be a construction staging area or whatever. I would strongly recommend not investing anything in that until we know that plan, because obviously we don't want to fix a field and then wreck it. That would be my preference, to push it out another year. But they are in need of replacement, yes. And Testa is in good shape though itself, because that was done 2 years ago, I think. No, not the track. We've done
That was the turf. That was the turf. Okay,
turf is
move on.
Quick question. Approximately how long does it take to redo one of these fields? Like, what's the time frame?
So to do a turf field, the field itself takes about 9 months. The track, the track will probably be similar because you'll have to work around the field as well. I don't have a specific timeline. I can get the answer for you from my superintendent, but I would assume it'll be 9 months or less, because that's what it takes now to do the major field.
But so that would take the field out of commission for the whole academic year.
Correct. So we would have to work with the school to be able to either shift them to another site to share facilities with the other school, but they wouldn't and shouldn't be done at the same time. They should be staggered.
And so at the same time of Testa Field, which is at Brian McMahon, right? They wouldn't be able to play football at the same time because they're digging, the track goes around the football field, right?
Correct. So we would probably look to put this out in the spring, and then hopefully with 9 months of construction, it'll be completed in the summer and it'll be ready for the fall. So I don't know what sports or activities they have in the springtime, but yes, they may be impacted. But again, with the possible addition of these other fields, we may be able to move them and shift them off to another site. We have a good relationship with the ADs, and trust me, the track is one of the things that they need and they want to renovate, because they use it for track, cross country, those types of things.
Okay. Ben
Franklin, this is something that I had on last year's list. This is for the installation of AC in the gym. Right now, there is no AC, so we only generally use it in winter for winter programming, but putting AC allows us to program through the entire summer. And the Parks Department, one of the things we lack is interior space for programming. We are solely reliant on the school system and their facilities.
Agree with you. It's hot. It's hot. So go ahead.
And Ben Franklin is one of those that we actually have full use from morning to afternoon because it's not part of the school system. So this is a priority. We asked for last year is $200,000, and I think it's a good investment. And it serves an underserved community. It's right around the corner from me. It's almost like the center of our whole neighborhood, with activities. So one of the things.
Go ahead.
One of the things
asked for $275,000 to redo the heating and air conditioning system. Why isn't the gym part of that?
I think they're doing the rest of the building and not the gym. A lot of the schools are designed that way too. They don't have AC either in the gymnasiums or the cafeterias. So I don't know why they do that. It's just a cost savings for them. But since we're the primary user, it comes out of my budget.
Okay. But so you need another $200,000 to add to the already $275,000. So $475,000 for air conditioning for that facility.
That was the estimate that I got from facilities for the gym specifically itself. I did ask them to provide me an estimate for the gymnasium. That's what it came back as. Yes.
Thank you.
This request was there last year as well, Tammy. 200,000.
I mean, regardless, the other, I forget which department it is, wants to put air conditioning and redo the whole air conditioning and heating system. Why can't they be combined? And I would imagine that there would be some cost savings there.
At Ben Franklin, they're putting in additional AC?
They asked to change the heating and cooling system. We talked about it last night.
I don't think it's air conditioning though, but Nick, you can check.
Anyway.
I'll check with Neil and facilities and see if there's some cost savings there. If we can combine to do the work at the same time. I'll check with them too.
Thank you.
No problem. Freeze Park, $400,000 was for, is for the phase 2 of the master plan, which is the seating around and the plaza and the seating around the park. Honestly, this can be pushed out another year. We can still program and use that facility based on the current layout. The only programming we do there now is a mini concert jam session in the summer, and it's worked for a number of years. So this can be pushed out as well. So that's just my thought on it. But we do the completion of the master plan, but it can be delayed a year.
Consider it done. Go ahead.
The next item I have is the start of my routine annual capital maintenance request. Backstops and fencing, $50,000. In all honesty, I think we have a carryover balance of about $80,000 going into this year. We will not use that entire thing. So this $50,000 can be pushed out to next year as well.
Okay, very good.
Paving sidewalks project. This was not funded last year, so I would ask that it get funded this year because I have no money in my paving contract. So if you're gonna fund one of them, this would be my priority, the sidewalks, because I didn't get money last year for it.
Okay.
Tree planting. This tree planting is for plantings on park properties itself. DPW has their own that they do in the right of ways. My plantings and this $50,000 is part of the commitment to the Tree City designation. And again, this replaces the canopy in parks, which can sometimes go down in storms and those types of things. So this is an annual requirement under the Tree City designation that we're asking to fund again.
Okay.
The Open Space Fund, we talked about this last year. This is money that's transferred over to conservation to be used for green space and open space acquisitions. We generally don't have a lot of say in it because it's handled by conservation. I am going to use a portion of this money this year to purchase an amenity down at the beach, the sailing school that's there. But this money is generally a commitment to the open space acquisitions that's handled by conservation.
So you just hand it over, figure whatever gets approved, it's a checkbook for conservation and nobody else?
Correct. And the CFO did question me about it. He was going to reach out to Alexis, who oversees conservation, to find out how that money was spent and either have this whole entire request go under conservation instead of it coming out of the parks budget.
Well, because we never see what happens to this money. I know money gets approved, not a lot of money, but it gets approved, but we never see the other end of how the money is spent. So
absolutely agree. And with me making this request and it's my responsibility as oversight, I'm uncomfortable with that. So I did ask that this be replaced in conservation's budget and not come out of the Parks Department.
Okay, very good.
The next two items I have is Oyster Shell and the softball field. Both of those requests I just pushed out to 2023 because we are going to have some money left over from the athletic field project we did this year that I'll be able to tackle Roten Field. So we're actually going to get 4 fields out of last year's money. And Oyster Shell, again, it's to complete the master plan phasing. But honestly, that can be pushed out another year as well. Considering the climate that we're in, I think we should do that.
Well, Nick, I think that's it, right? From what we have?
That's it. Yep.
Okay, are there any questions from, and also we might think of something else which will funnel through Steve Kleppen to get to you guys. I would say that the more pictures that you can submit to us and also the other reviewing entities, I think will go a long way. So go ahead.
I will definitely do that. I'll send photos of all of the capital items and facility conditions. And then I will also send both layouts for Brian McMahon and Broad River, as well as the cost estimates from the consultants as well. So I'll send that in a folder over to Brian. You'll have access to it.
Nick, I'd like to make a recommendation for you. With COVID, coming out of COVID or being in COVID, I don't know what your Park and Rec committee looks like, how it's formed, who's on there, but I strongly urge you guys to have somebody with a financial thought process when you're processing these concepts. so that we can ascertain the cost and the residual incomes from these potential projects, like a thinking committee tank. I think I should have a sub finance committee that will give you guys some more direction on this so that you can present a full story, a full piece when it comes to these capital needs.
So Steve, a lot of the projects that I am proposing were things that were in the pipeline before I got here. There hasn't been anything new that I've come up with, and I'm not going to, because that's going to be driven by the Parks Master Plan. That's also going to be completed this year. That will survey the entire community on what their recreational needs and interests are, and that will drive our community, that will drive our capital plan moving forward, right? But as part of that, yes, we will have potential revenue generators off of capital projects as part of the report too. But yes, I agree with you.
Okay, Brian Baker, please make a note that we like to know why the open space fund is under Nick here and what's happened, in accounting of what's money is in there in that budget.
Sure. I brought that up when I sat in on the call with Nick and Henry and Anthony, and I was scolded for proposing to just transfer it to conservation. So I'll let Henry make the decision, and then I'll let you guys know.
Planning Commission wants to know, okay, why it's under Nick, how much money is in there, and how has it been spent? So
sure.
So you don't get in trouble. We want to know.
All right.
Fran, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Nick, great job on this presentation tonight, and everybody else too. It's just amazing how much we learn in these conversations. I want to say all the other departments, which you heard some of, but certainly like police, they've bought all hybrid vehicles. We strongly recommend you go hybrid. In the end, they cost a little more in the beginning, but in the end, the fuel and maintenance costs are lower, and they have higher resale if we get to that point, but the batteries are usually now guaranteed for 10 years, a warranty. So we highly recommend that. I think that's the image the city is going to put forth of certainly one of the images that were more environmentally friendly and sustainable. And I want to thank you for Flax Hill Park. It looks great. I walk every day. I walk in Flax Hills, my neighborhood park. It serves a lot of low-income minority folks in our neighborhood. It's always busy. It's always filled up. And there was a time where that park was not used because of the condition. And sometimes I pick up trash in it when I'm walking around, but it's kept clean now. It looks great. And I can't tell you how important that is to our neighborhood. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's changed everything in our neighborhood.
Thank you. I
Okay.
appreciate the sentiments.
Any other questions of Nick or Anthony or whatever?
Yes, sorry, Nick. Just another one. I'm kind of shocked, the price of some of these things. I think the recreation is really important, but how many bids are you required to get on these projects?
I don't think there's a minimum requirement of bidders before you can award. Vanessa, you may know the procurement process better than I do, but there isn't a requirement, correct?
There is no requirement. What happened is we advertise all over, and then but to be honest, we get a lot of competitive bids.
We do.
In the last ones that we've been getting, we did 2, 3 out for engineering, and we went above 10 response. So purchasing procurement handles that. And if it is only one that comes back, then we need to go through our diligence and make sure that whoever gets it is also qualified.
For like the master plan, there were 8 consultants that submitted. For the West Rocks project, I think there were at least 6 contractors that submitted there. So it's not like we just have 1 or 2 to pick from and people are price gouging us. It's actually very competitive. Again, we generally put out a lot of projects, and Vanessa again can speak to this, at the end of the year where a lot of people are looking for work to get the best pricing for it. So we have a strategy in place, and it's a competitive process we go through to award these projects.
Great. Okay, any other questions?
one, quick, what, I have a minute?
Quick, quick.
Are you gonna use some of your tree planting budget for West Rocks with the, tree removals that were there that made the neighborhood a little crazy?
Yes, we already spoke to the HOA there. We promised them that we would go 1-for-1 with anything that was lost there. And we've actually met with them and gone over specific plantings of what they would like to see there. So yes, we are addressing that. Any project that we move forward with where we're replacing a tree, we will replant a tree in the same site as well. That is my policy moving forward. Any tree planting that's removed as part of a capital project will be replanted at that site.
Wow, great, thanks.
So keep that in mind as you're doing Broad River, because I think you're going to take out a lot of trees over there, right? Anyway, so any other questions for Nick? Okay, I have a couple of things for Planning Commission, so I want to thank you, Anthony, and everybody who presented. Did a great job of explaining. Like Mike said, we learned a lot every time, and it was a smooth process. So thank you, and we'll be hearing from you guys at the public hearing.
Anthony, I want that telephone number.
See me after the meeting.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you, commissioners. Have a nice
Thanks,
night.
guys.
Thank you to the
Good
staff.
night.
Fantastic job as always.
Hey, Fran, my wife wants to say hi, Fran. Say hi. My wife wants to say hi. Say hi to Fran.
We're almost done. We're almost done. Yeah. Hi there.
Good morning. I mean, good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. All right. So just we're going to be finished real quick. I want to talk about the public hearing a minute. Brian Baker, this is what I have in mind. I saw your agenda, which is just a listing of departments. This is my thought process right now. Since we are on Zoom and all that, I would like, and Planning Commission, if you disagree, whatever, I would like to have all the department heads online. Okay, everybody's is in the meeting. And then as residents have comments, whatever, if they have one comment, or meaning one department, two departments, three departments, I want them to, I'm proposing that whoever the resident is up, they speak to whatever budget item, and that we have all the department heads, answer one by one. If somebody's got five questions of 5 departments, that's how it would go. I don't want to do a resident goes up, for police, then they're up again for fire, whatever. That's my thought process. What do you think? Or can that be done?
I love that idea, Fran.
Yeah, so what we'll do, Fran, is we'll just make an announcement at the beginning of the meeting saying, if you're here to speak on multiple items, do it all at once. And then if you'd like it to do it more of like a Q&A style, or however you want to do it, is fine with me.
I want to do it if whatever their first department is, let's say it's Public Works, right? So they have a question of Public Works, then Public Works will answer, okay? Then if they have a question on Parks and Recs or another department, whatever, information technology, whatever, then that department head would answer. So this way, residents get up, if you will, meaning they ask their question and then they're out. Okay, they don't come back. The people are not going to come back in, right? And in the past, we've seen, I don't know what the crowd's going to be versus supporting these, the baseball field. Remember last year we had 100 people there for the baseball field. So that's my approach. If you guys have different ideas, speak up. But that's the thought process. Residents get up, they ask their questions, and then they move on.
Is there any way to determine what the most popular subject's going to be, and then do that first? And then let that staff go home, or I mean, they don't go home actually, they sign off. But are we going to try to do any kind of differentiation on what might be the most popular subject based on past experience?
Now, I wasn't looking at that at all. Everybody's at home sitting down, right? Before they used to be at the community room, so we used to dismiss those that didn't have any input. But this way, you know, we don't know the residents what they come up with, but we don't have, they say, a show of hands. I don't think we can do that. And then some people might be joining a little bit later, if you will, or whatever it is. So if they're in queue to speak, and I don't, you know, I haven't done it. I haven't hosted a Zoom meeting, so I don't know how it all looks like.
I have an idea for you, Fran.
It's okay. I'm just saying is that's what I'm proposing. Unless you guys are against it, that's what we
Might
go
be
with.
the easiest way.
Well, are you going to have the 3-minute rule? And you can ask for a show of hands in the little, you know, chat section, that if, I think Brian can kind of manage that at the beginning. You could say, how many people are here for the ball field? And if, you know, 50 hands all go up on the little chat thing, then you would at least know that maybe 50 potential people are going to speak for 3 minutes apiece on the ball field.
I think I like to judge that when we get to it and see how many people. Can you tell, Brian, how many people are logged in? I guess you can, right?
Yeah. So I can tell you how many people are attending the meeting. Usually what we do is similar to your meetings or zoning commission meetings, is like if a public hearing item comes up, you know, they open the hearing, and then we say, you know, if anyone would like to speak on this application, use the little raise your hand tool, and then a bunch of hands go up, and then we start bringing them over one by one to talk. So it's kind of the same thing with what you're proposing. It's just what you're proposing is just everyone would just raise their hands to start, and then just let them come in and say whatever they want when they're allowed to speak.
To me, a public hearing, people take time to come in and, you know, and speak at a public hearing. I'm not looking for a lot of restrictions, you know, stuff. And as you know, I haven't cut people off unless they're really gone. You know, I don't think I've ever cut people off. So 3-minute rule depends, you know, what do we have? Somebody's talking, I'm not cutting them off. Is it 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes? It all depends what the crowd is, right?
I think 3 minutes important because you have to be fair to the people who are waiting in line. And I think you can get somebody who might want to talk for 15 minutes, but that might be unfair to all of the people at the end of the queue. That's the reason why you do the 3 minutes. It's not so much to cut people off, it's to be fair to all the other speakers so everybody has a chance. Because, you know, it's really unfair to make somebody wait hours to say something that might only take a minute, I think.
Okay, I agree. I mean, we can say 3-minute rule, and somebody's still talking at 3.5, you know, I'm okay with it.
Well, Brian can actually use a timer if you didn't mind. I mean, you could play that role of time the speakers, and then you ring a bell, or you have a little bell there like that.
We go like this, okay?
No, we don't do that.
Fran, I have a
All right.
question. If someone has multiple questions, are you going to do 3 minutes no matter how many questions they have, or 3 minutes per question, or how are you going to handle that?
I guess I'm going to ask the person how many departments they're talking to, right? And I don't want people to be dropped off, then you got to come back in. You know, I'm trying to think of how best managing. I don't have the answer how to best manage it, right? So if they want to talk to 3 departments, I guess we'll do it as we go along. I think Mike is right about being fair to everybody. Not sure what the right answer is, Mary, right now.
Right. No, I was just asking because if someone said they had questions for 4 departments.
Yeah, I know.
And you get 3 minutes for each, that's 12 minutes right there for just one person. So I understand that what you're trying to do is get a flow, so you're getting one person in and out, and I don't know the right answer either, but I'm just anticipating a problem that could come up. So I was just wondering if there was any thought to a solution rather than having come up with the solution on the spot.
As someone who has spoken at a lot of public hearings as a citizen, and I still do, it would not be a burden to just make a list of your questions. You make an announcement ahead of time and you have 3 minutes to present your questions. You can ask 5, 6 questions in 3 minutes, no problem.
And then, we have to account for the time that the answering is going to take as well by staff, but this can get unwieldy very quickly if we have 3 minutes per question.
I agree. In addition to that, what you could do is just have them ask all their questions, and then once, say everything they're going to say, and then have the departments respond afterwards.
Okay.
And then.
Like a zoning hearing, like you have the applicant respond at the end, and then you're not having individual, that's a great idea. So we get all the questions up front, all the input from the public, and then we would get the staff answering the questions that they would be writing down as they heard them.
No. I think what we said was the resident will ask if they have 4 questions. They will ask their 4 questions, and then the department heads answer those 4 questions, not at the very end of the meeting. That's not what we said.
Oh, well.
That sounds a good system.
Okay, because zoning does, like, when there's a public hearing in zoning, not to argue, I'm just making this clear, that the public speaks, everybody gets up, they have their 3 minutes, they each have questions, and then the applicant gets up and answers all the questions at once in an efficient manner instead of the staff, because a lot of times the questions are repeated.
I know, but that we do the same thing. Remember, Planning Commission does the same thing. The residents ask the question, then at the very end, the applicant or the attorney answers all those questions, right? We do the same thing.
And you don't want to do it that way?
No, I don't want to do it that way.
I think it worked really well when you guys were doing the East Norwalk TOD, and you'd have people from the public speak, and then if they had any questions, you kind of had Steve. They'd say everything they want to say. We'd move them. They'd be done talking, and then Steve would reply with his comments, and then we moved on to the next speaker. And I thought that worked pretty well.
I also thought it was a mistake to let people speak more than once, because
I already said we're not speaking more than once.
Oh, you did? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Okay, no, I said.
I must have been distracted by something.
You must have been. I said they'll get up, they'll ask their questions, and then they don't come back up. Okay, they'll ask their questions.
That's fair to everybody else too that wants to speak. So okay.
Okay, so don't forget the public hearing. It's at 5:30. Same thing, and
6 for public hearing.
No. 5:30.
We already noticed it for 6.
Not my problem. Okay, I sent that out to Steve. I sent them to Steve. I said all of the capital budget meetings were going to be at 5:30, including public hearing and our markup. So what problems do we cause you now?
Well, we can't, because since it's a public hearing, it has to be noticed in the paper twice, 2 weeks prior, 1 week prior. So we've noticed it for 6. So if you change it, then we'd have to change the whole meeting date.
We can't change it now.
Yeah, so 6 o'clock for the which is next
3.
Next what? Tuesday?
Feb 3.
Wednesday.
Okay, so Wednesday at 6 o'clock. Our markup starts at 5:30. Is that on your list or not?
That can always be changed, because that doesn't have to be noticed. That's a regular meeting. So we can make that 5:30.
Yeah, but Steve is not sharing info. I told him weeks ago when we planned all these meetings what the sequence was going to be. Anyway, it's okay. Public hearing will start at 6. Markup will start at 5:30, which is the 10th or whatever it is, or I don't remember right now. Right, whatever the date is for our markup, we'll start at 5:30, public hearing at 6 next week. Okay, any other business we got to talk about?
Is the budget online somewhere?
Not yet. I don't think it's been released meaning the budget, what Henry's recommendations are?
No, what we've been looking at.
What, the capital budget?
Well, yes.
It's online.
It is online.
Yeah.
I think it's on Finance Department's page.
It's on the Finance Department's page?
It's on the
Finance Department.
Finance Department, yeah.
Mr. Baxendale, is your cell phone number 512-5259?
Yes, it is.
All right, great. Okay.
What's happened?
No, no,
All right.
I have something to share with you afterwards.
No other, if there's no other business, Tammy, you there?
Yes, do I have a motion? I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
Okay, thank you all. Have a good rest of the week and we'll chat next week. Okay.
Thanks, Fran. Bye there.
Bye, thank you, Diane.
Bye, everybody.